Okay, so we'll get started. This is a Developmental Review Board meeting on Thursday, March 6th, and we're going to call the meeting to order. First item that we have here is the agenda additions or changes, and I have a suggestion for a change. First, I'll go around and see if anybody else has one as well. Nick?
No.
No?
No.
No? No? My suggestion is that the consent item that's here is actually subject to the final approval that's later on in our agenda. So my suggestion is that we move item 5, consent item, down below the public hearing section, because it is dependent upon final approval, section B of the Allen Brook development piece. Does anybody... You guys agree with that? Have any want any discussion on that? We will continue to have in the public to be heard section, we'll allow comments for specifically the consent item, and we'll mark that that's the case. But we're just going to move that to a little bit later discussion because it's all contingent on whether or not we approve the final piece before us tonight.
Is the proposal to make it a 5C, excuse me, 6C item?
No, no, because it's an actual consent item anyway. It's already been decided, so
Shuffle the numbers.
we'll just shuffle the numbers. So
become
5 will become 6, 6 will become 5. So
Okay.
6 A and B will be
Oh,
5 A and
I
B.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So, and we'll move it just before the approval of the meeting minutes.
If that's a motion, I can support that.
I will make a motion
Okay. I'll
to
second.
move the consent item to after the public hearing section.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Should ask for discussion.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. I will ask for discussion. Yes, Sharon, you waved your hand.
I think she was saying yes.
You were,
That was my eye, but we
oh,
we
your
need
eye.
a discussion,
Okay. Trevor,
so.
any questions or any discussion about it?
No,
No?
that was enough.
All right.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Great. Motion passes 7-0. Okay. Then we'll, if everyone's good with the agenda, I will take a motion to approve the agenda as recently adjusted.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Nick, seconded by Hubie. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. So the next section that we come up to is item 4, which is the public to be heard. And this is the section of time where we ask for the public to approach us and discuss anything that is not on the agenda this evening, with the exception of the consent item, which we just moved. If you have something to say about the consent item, then you're welcome to do so. I do see you, and I will recognize you in just one second. I do want to make sure that everyone is aware that this is a quasi-judicial meeting, and it is held under strict guidelines. We'll give you everybody a certain amount of time to speak if they have anything they'd like to say, but we're going to continue to move along the meeting as well. And I will ask everybody to swear in. Anybody that plans on speaking this evening, whether it's for the public to be heard or if you're planning on speaking on the public hearing section later, I will ask that you raise your hand. If you're in the room, please stand. If you are online, please raise your hand online with the hand tool. And I will ask if you do hereby affirm that the testimony or evidence that you're about to give in the applications that are under consideration are accurate and true to the best of your knowledge. You do. And anybody online? Jessica or, let's see, Ken? Taylor? Yep, I didn't see.
Taylor could let me know his last name.
And Taylor, if we could get your last name for the record as well, please.
The last name is Wagner.
Wagner?
Thank you.
Yes, Wagner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, and, pardon me? And if you are planning on speaking, I just want to make sure that you affirm the oath.
Somebody just came in waiting room.
Sure, we'll allow Thomas to
Yes,
come
I'm
in.
trying to figure out how to do the hand raising thing on here.
Sure,
Just say aye.
just say aye is fine.
I is fine. Okay, I.
Yeah, thank you.
I affirm.
Thank you. And that was whom?
Jessica Chapel.
Jessica, thank you. Great. And did you allow in the new member?
I let
Yep. Thomas is in? Okay. And Thomas, we were just taking a swearing of those that were going to either speak or offer evidence. And if you're planning on doing so, I can ask you the oath and ask if you agree. Is that something you're interested in doing?
I don't plan on speaking, but I can take an oath if need be.
Sure. If you don't plan on speaking, why don't we wait? And then if you do choose, then I'll just swear you in at that time.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, so in the public to be heard section, we had a hand. Come on up, address who you are and where you live, and tell us what you want to tell us.
My name is David Scopin. I live in Pinewood Manor, 11 Skyline Drive, and I want to clarify some of a particular item concerning the proposed development in Pinewood Manor. I was around for the very, very first meeting, and it seems like 5 years ago. It was a long time ago. And after that particular meeting, I certainly noticed that there was some concerns about pushing that forward because of the fact that there was a right up front, and the developer certainly knew this going in, there was a sticking point, which was 20% slopes. I noticed from the redo that just came through that it hadn't really changed. Some of the percentages had gone down simply because less land was going to be developed. Again, we're seemingly pushing this thing forward in light of the fact that the last time around, before it would have gone to a vote, town employees were saying that this should be denied. Now, pushing it forward again, what do I need to know as to, are we setting ourselves up to be forced to break the rules? Do we think some magical thing is going to occur and we're not going to have to deal with the same situation? I'm a little confused. And as a interested party, I'm very concerned. So if you could kindly help me out here.
Well, I think I can speak to you, David, just to let you know that that the most recent application actually was continued, and there's an additional, there are some additional changes that the applicants are reviewing. So we don't actually have anything before us at the moment.
I was there for that, and the engineer put forth what the changes were, and they were not significant. If you and I both remember correctly, they talked about acreage changes and percent of the land that would be developed that would still be at 20% slopes. Now, what do I need to know?
We can tell you that. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the fact that it's an open application, it was not warned, we cannot discuss it. You can ask us and put any questions you want on record. We cannot engage with you on that tonight. It is an open application. This is not the public forum in which it was warned. So there's no dialogue back and forth on that application. Again, you can ask the questions.
Well, what I'm wondering is why you're pushing it forward, knowing going into it, you're not going to make.
So
You're going to have to break. You're going to have to break a rule.
You're asking commentary about an application that's open and it's not being reviewed in this public forum. It's not part of this public.
Well, I
meeting.
know that.
So we can't engage with you on it. You can ask staff outside of this meeting, or you can put your questions on record like you're doing right now.
Okay.
As long as you're not expecting an answer tonight.
Okay. Now, one thing I would like to know is that as an interested party, I'm assuming, because I noticed that you talked about doing an actual site visit. I would like to be a part of that site visit.
Site visits are warned, so we'll put that out on an agenda. as
Okay.
well.
So that's something I would be able to take part in.
They're part of a public process, so yeah.
Very good. Okay. Well, I
Sorry.
appreciate your time.
No, thank you.
Sorry we couldn't come to a understanding on why we're going forward on something that is obviously possibly a dead
I
issue.
can just, I'll just speak to the fact that we're not currently moving forward where there's an open application that will come back to us for review, is my understanding. So that's all that we have at this point.
All right.
It-
And you were
there's
about to
nothing
say
that's-
something there, Mr. Norton?
Go ahead, Chair,
Get
recognized
recognized
Mr.
by
Norton.
him, not you,
Yeah.
okay? That, again, not to respond to your comments directly, but I'd love to respond to some of your characterizations, okay? Because you're on the record, all right? But I'm not going to. So I'm not gonna say where your characterizations are correct or incorrect.
What do you mean characterization?
You have commented about the status of the application, okay? And again, I'm not going to comment one way or the other, but you're on the record for those comments.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time.
We appreciate the comments. Thank you for coming in. Is there anyone else in the room that has anything that would like to address for items that are not on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, how about online? Is there anybody online that would have some commentary about something that's not on the agenda this evening, or the consent item?
And just for you guys haven't, for application purposes, that also includes the development review board members' questions or comments on the consent agenda.
Correct.
I should call out, thank you, Dustin, that, the boundary adjustment. I did make a minor change to finding 2 on the consent agenda, and, when we talk about it, I'll call out exactly
Right.
what it is.
Yeah, so we plan on having that conversation.
But we can't have a conversation unless we're not gonna accept the consent agenda item. So we can't address the content of the consent agenda item
Until you
except in public hearing.
Okay,
So you got some, I mean,
yes, so,
We'll deal with it then.
I changed, excuse me, I changed, finding 2 to read, the proposal is part of the Saxon Hill Industrial Park Phase 2 application due to the relocation of Chemo Drive, which is currently a private road, and this is what I added, however, was approved to be upgraded to a public road, and then the remaining finding is the same. So I added that to the first sentence, however, was approved to be upgraded to a public road. And I provided a copy to each of you before your seats.
Upgrade to a public road. Yep.
And Mr. Chair, just in case there's confusion over my interruption, consent, everything about consent has to be discussed in public hearing. When we actually move on the consent agenda item, it's only whether or not we feel it can be accepted, it passed as a consent, or if it needs to be kicked out of consent.
Correct.
So
Thank you.
if any of you have questions,
This is the time to do it, yeah.
Correct. Nick, do you have any questions about the adjustment?
I don't.
No?
I guess I'm confused, okay?
Sure.
Why are we talking about the adjustment if we can't talk about the consent item?
No, the consent agenda, consent items can only be addressed, discussed in public hearing, in the public comment section.
And we moved it out of the public hearing section below.
No,
Right.
we actually didn't move it out of
We
public
didn't move
hearing.
it, we just moved it.
So why are we talking about this adjustment?
you have to make any public comments from the public or
Changes that we have,
DRB members during the public to be heard.
So the item that we moved was just to,
Okay, so this is a change to what had been warned, in essence.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I
Did you
do
have
have
any
some
que-
comments.
On the consent letter?
Yes, on those adjustments.
Okay.
I had made an adjustment of myself, my own. Instead of making the changes that are shown in red, I was simply gonna add to the original one where it says, which is currently a public road and,
Currently a private road.
excuse me, you're right, which is currently a private road, and if that project is approved, the road will be upgraded to public road. I think that's all that needs to be done to make that say the same thing that you said here.
And that's fine. I have no issue with that, so I just.
Because I don't
And
I
if
don't
approved,
believe
will
that
be-
this was approved to be upgraded to a public road.
You're right.
Unless.
Correct. Unless we approve
Well,
the-
no, so.
Yeah.
It will be approved, that's why we're removing it. So the agenda item that you
Yeah.
have to approve
Right.
makes it a public road, so.
Okay, yes, I understand. I'm
Yep.
just saying that the change could be much simpler, just saying if project is approved, then it will be upgraded to a public road, but.
That's fine, and so which is currently a private road, comma, and if approved will be.
And if that project is approved, the road will be upgraded to a public road.
Yeah. Yep,
Simpler change.
that works.
Yep, that works. Did you have any others, Hubie?
Well, other than under conditions, on line 85, conclusion of the Essex Planning Commission,
Yes.
should be BRB.
well, now I'll have
Very
to,
pervasive.
print that out again real quick. I was hoping with just the first change, I'd still have you sign the signature page, but I'll have to fix that.
Any other catch?
No.
Any other catch for you? No? Nick?
Sorry.
No, that's good. That's what we're here for.
Okay, and the conditions, item number 2, the last line, expense prior to recording the deed in the land records. I'm sure that's the word that should be inserted there.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
The last line on item number 2 on the conditions, prior to recording the deed in the land records.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
That was it. Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chair.
catch. Any other changes or comments from board members? Any other comments from public in regards to this consent item? Online? Okay. Seeing none. Then, I can't even remember, do we have to move on this or not?
No, we
we're
can't.
not,
till the-
because we're not
till-
doing, right, exactly.
It's number 6.
I've confused myself about the order now.
So just for the record, with the way Hubie phrased it, we could have moved on it
Yep,
without changing the agenda.
right. Yep. Okay, so then our next item up for bids is the public hearing. And we have a couple of items here. Item A on the public hearing would be the final minor subdivision for Kenan Heco. Did I pronounce that correctly? That's great, thank you. Kent, if you'd like to give us a bit of a rundown on this application?
Sure. So they're proposing a 4-lot subdivision, where one lot would be the existing house and barn. Lot 2 would be a new single dwelling unit, and so would lot 3, and then lot 4 would be the remaining undeveloped 45 acres. Because the undeveloped area is as large as it is, and has potential future development could happen there, they've provided a master plan as required that shows a hypothetical layout of something that could be there in the future. And just a couple small things that I would just highlight here is on, I mentioned on line 128, is even though it's not a town requirement, they have a really nice opportunity here to do some habitat connectivity, try to restore some of the fragmented habitat in the area with their lot, and I mentioned a couple ways that could potentially happen. It's not a requirement, but it could be a way that you could contribute there. And then in the comments made by the Conservation and Trails Committee, they reflected that along with a couple other suggestions that they had that they encourage you to think about. And that starts on line 243. Other than that, there are some proposed conditions that are mostly just boilerplate items in there, nothing notable.
Okay,
So
thank you.
recommending it for.
Thank you. Applicants, would you like to state your names and tell us a little bit about your project? And we'll certainly reach out with any questions that we have.
Do you want me to deal with it? Okay. Hi, I'm John Stewart. It's Ken Heco. And to carry on from what Kent has presented, this is a 4-lot subdivision. There's an existing house on Lot 1. Lot 4 will be open. It's a large tract, 45 plus acres. And then 2 new lots served by a shared drive off Colonel Page Road, to be private, obviously. And each lot has a drilled well and a mound system. Okay. We have a water and wastewater permit issued by the state, which recognizes the subdivision as presented here. And that will be offered as part of the zoning permit application as required by one of the permit conditions. One of the items in the staff discussion, which Kent brought up about the east-west corridor, there is presently on the plan, and it would remain there, a 20-foot wide agricultural easement, which obviously could be used by whatever, I don't know who would, what would actually use it, but some form of life that might be moving east and west to the forest blocks, or from Alder Brook to the forest blocks. So it is part of the plan, and will be part of any Mylar that's submitted for recording. And also this plan depicts existing tree lines, which will be preserved, obviously for screening purposes, and the fact that they're aesthetically, those tree lines are important parts of those 2 lots. So, as well as along Colonel Page Road. And there's also, if you look at the plan, there are 5 trees that are, 3 of which are on the 2 proposed lots. Those are existing apple trees, and they will, provided they remain healthy, will be maintained. They're a nice feature of the 2 lots, so we want to keep them. And so that's, I think that's the summary that, unless the commission, or I should say the board, would like to ask some questions about what the plan represents.
Sure. Thank you. Members, questions for the applicant? Nick?
Not right now.
No? Nope. None?
Sure. Yeah, the apple tree is a good idea. You'd be able to shoot your deer off your porch here. The number 9 of the findings, it says driveway culvert length shall be 30 feet. Which driveway culvert?
That's the entrance culvert.
Okay, it's just that it wasn't indicated, the length
No,
apparently
but
wasn't.
that's already been changed on the plan. We haven't submitted it because that will be part of the final documents.
Also, number 11, it says, number 10 and 11 references all water infrastructure be installed and town representative, all connections, existing water infrastructure.
That doesn't apply to our project.
Say, was what, that's just the.
Templated,
That's
must be.
just a
That's 10 and 11.
copy paste thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 17, line 295, applicants engineers verify the total proposed impervious surface and so on. If under 0.5 acres, and then how's that measured, and then what if it's over 0.5 acres?
Well, if it's over 0.5, you have to get a state stormwater permit.
Okay.
But the actual impervious area, which is represented by the driveway and the house footprints, is about 0.2 acres, so we're under the threshold.
Right, so you verify, that's what it's
Yes.
saying, that the engineer shall verify, and you have, okay. And number 18, I don't think we're having fire hydrants either, right?
Now,
So, cut and paste, capture, whatever. Yeah, that's, but I can agree with Kent noted about the conservation. Committee and Trails had some comments and so on, which I agree with, as Kent has noted.
Yeah, actually, let's. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Okay. Satisfied?
One I just note is on line number 274.
Yep.
It says curb cut application and water application. What does that mean?
So this is a well and septic.
It's you
So,
have
yeah, so we
wells,
should-
right? So I
yeah.
mean,
So
there's no.
we need the state WW permit, so
Yeah.
that just delete.
Oh my God.
All you got? You okay? Dusty?
I'm good for the moment.
Okay. If members at the moment have no other questions, I'll take a motion to open up the public hearing.
Don't forget
Oh,
the two.
oh, I'm sorry, you're right, thank you, yes. Trevor and Sharon. Trevor,
We're gonna get them back.
I'm good.
Sharon's good. Trevor, are you good for now?
I'm okay.
Okay. If no other members have questions at this point, I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second?
Second. Okay. Motion by Stephanie, second by Dusty. All those in favor, any discussion about that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Trevor, did I get you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So this is the point when we'll open up to the public. If there's anybody in the room here that has anything that they would like to say about this application specifically, or online. Online, if you would show your hand with the hand tool. Anyone here in the room that has anything they would like to address?
And I guess I'd say if online doesn't know how to use the hand, they can just,
If any-
Shout out.
that's right. Shout out if you haven't figured out the hand yet.
I think you click on the react button.
Yep.
I do have a question if no one else does.
Fire away, please, Jessica.
First off, I want to thank you for trying to preserve the tree line. That really warms me. I appreciate that you did that. Could you talk a little bit more about the culverts, if there's going to be any impact on the culverts?
In the existing culverts or the one that will be installed?
So there's going to be one installed. So how will that impact the existing culvert?
Just gonna lengthen it. Right now, it's sitting at 22 feet, I believe, so it just needs to go to 30 feet.
Okay.
Does that,
There's not going to be any change of water down the road at all. It's just you're expanding the existing culvert.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions online? Any questions here in the room? Okay, seeing none, we'll leave the public hearing open for a minute and make sure that we have any additional discussion. I'll start on this side today.
I'm curious, Ken, I'd like if you could explain a little bit more the line that says they meet the scenic requirement. There's no detail about how they meet it and so forth.
They did a nice job providing some drawings of some photographs of the location, showing what the existing area looked like. They put the houses as far away from the road as they could, and I thought they did a good job staying within the intent of the scenic resource protection overlay district. That they really had a minimal impact on the views. So it seemed like, yes, you'll be able to see the houses, but it seemed like that's well within the acceptable boundaries for.
So I'm relatively familiar with this parcel from the original development that went on it, and there was quite a bit of discussion on the lot 1, which is the existing portion, and then the remainder. There's a lot of talk on a conservation subdivision, a conservation easement. And I'm not seeing any referencing to that, and I'm really concerned that there might have been a conservation easement that has been overlooked.
I did look into that, and that was brought up previously. There just was, and it was recommended to a previous property owner to do that, but there wasn't any requirement from the town to do that. They decided not to do that so that they would be able to keep their development options open in the future.
Okay.
Good?
Good.
Yubi?
I know there's an easement for the existing mound system there and so on. For the house that already exists there on lot 1.
That's correct.
So that's not that's all agreeable to you as for developing these other lots. It's not going to be an encumbrance in any way. Then.
No.
The way the easement is written or whatever is okay.
Okay. Any questions on this side? Oh, we have something. Sharon, go right ahead.
I have a question. The rendering is showing what the effect on the view corridor will be. Will that be part of the approval? Like, included as part of the approval?
We can include it in there. I mean, it was materials that you provided. We can include that all in there.
You mean include them with the plans?
Well, I just remember, Dusty remembers this probably, the town center, a building was approved, that was supposed to show all the mountains behind it, and two of the members approved the application based on that, and it turned out not to be, and I don't think they would have otherwise. So I'm just like, when you show a rendering of the view corridor and what it's going to affect, like, does it have to look like that?
Can I add to your question, Sharon?
Sure.
Is your rendering a potential rendering, or is it the proposed rendering? The proposed layout?
No, well, the plan has located the houses outside the view corridor. So, I mean, those footprints or building envelopes are part of the survey. So, I mean, it's that will not change. And the photographs clearly show that with the position of the houses, that there's no visual impact, so.
So if I could, Kent or Sharon, when were the photographs added to the file?
I'm looking for the photographs right now to see if.
Because I downloaded the file as soon as it was announced that it was available, and I don't have any photographs.
It was part of the sketch plan.
I don't have neither.
So were they resubmitted with final?
I believe so, but I'm not certain. I believe so. Well, we'll resubmit them if they didn't get attached.
I mean, if it was resubmitted with sketch was planning commission, correct? Or
Right.
so it's not going to
Yeah.
be available to the folks here. So, thanks for sharing, for bringing them up, but I don't think we've had access to them.
So I apologize, you did submit them again with this one, or
Well,
you're not sure?
I don't have the file, so
When was
So Kent's just looking to see what
When-
was included in the packet.
when was sketch?
Let me go to the index.
I've got a few years worth of files. That's I'm not sure if it's
November 14th.
You have it?
last year.
Says the applicant's sketch application for minor subdivision was approved on November 14th, 2024 from the Planning Commission.
So they weren't included in that packet either. At least not the packet that was distributed to the planning commission at that time.
On November 14th?
Correct.
For sketch?
So if we're using pictures, we gotta have them, if we're referencing them. And I don't know, Sharon, were they referenced? Were you referencing specifically, or were you just referencing from old? Sorry,
Go ahead.
I can say that it was, I mean, we had a narrative for the Scenic Resource Overlay District, and the photos were attached to that, too.
okay.
That I know was part of the sketch plan. Whether it was part of this
So
final.
it didn't come in on the November 14th. It wasn't in the packet that was distributed to the
Okay.
planning commission ahead of the meeting. Maybe it was presented in the meeting,
That one you're looking to now?
but I guess the question is it required? So John, you're saying that the building envelopes are what they are, and we see them in these.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they were positioned as far back in the in that field to preserve as much of the field as possible, as well as move them out of any potential scenic conflict.
So I have,
Yeah,
I'll
those
pass
are the
what
photos.
was pertinent part of what was provided. I didn't include this in the packet, I didn't think there was gonna be that much interest in it, I'm sorry. These were the photos that were provided.
Thank you.
Are we able to hold those up to the camera for?
That's what I was trying to find, I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding
These
them.
little signs.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe while we're looking for that, we'd be interested in having additional discussion while we.
Yes. Stephanie, do you have any,
Yeah, I don't.
other than when you get a chance to look at the pictures? Nick, after reviewing, you have any additional questions?
Well, it's just difficult to place those in context of what we're looking at versus what's on Mylar. I mean, these are just nice photos of pastures.
Yeah. But these were taken as like a view from the house, is that, or?
No, those were primarily along Colonel Page Road, because that's
Okay.
that's where the view to the mountains
Yep.
Okay.
would occur. And some of the photos are down near Alder Brook, which are off the property, but just to cover the general area. But
Between the photographs and maybe going on Google Earth,
Yep.
see what maybe capture a view that way,
Certainly.
to aid the
Here,
DRB.
I have to.
I'm smirking up here. It's not It's not sticking yet.
So if I can go out on a limb,
Please.
I'm not satisfied with this application from my own personal perspective. I don't feel that the scenic aspect and or the conservation aspect has been well represented at this stage, or at least not presented in a manner that I'm comfortable with. So at this stage, I will not be voting in the affirmative for this. If it goes to a vote, that's great. You only need 4. But I'm, at this point, not comfortable with voting this in the affirmative.
Okay.
Yep.
Kent has found the photo.
Ken has them. Okay, so now they're available for everybody as well.
So these are the photographs you're looking at that show the content.
Thank you.
Thank
along
you.
the road there. Do you want to explain what this photo is showing?
Yeah, so this is right here from top of Colonel Page. The existing house is shown right there on the bottom left. The 2 proposed houses that we're talking about are all the way in the left side. They still have all tree cover, so that would not be visible from.
so you can see Mount Mansfield on the left, and it's addressed in our analysis. And the beginning of Camel's Hump, straight ahead. But I believe the next photo will show very a little more clearly. That the view is straight ahead, and the houses are far to the north at that point, so they're not within the view. That's a view out into the meadow.
Taken from about where?
That is the stone wall that's down near the tree line, I believe. Is that right, Ken?
Near
Yeah.
the,
In between-
near the corner, near where the proposed driveway is? Or-
Yes, that's correct.
That's the existing mount system right there shown on the left.
Oh,
there.
okay, so that's the, all right,
That would be in the middle of that
yeah.
lot 2.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
the new house would be just barely on
Beyond.
the picture to the
Correct.
left.
Correct.
And this is down further on Colonel Page, approaching the open fields, which are off the property.
So now that'd be down more near where the new driveway would be going in.
Beyond
It's
the driveway.
beyond that, actually. So this, for some reason, these might be out of order, but that would be the driveway entrance right there on the
Well, those 2 gates are right there.
Right.
yeah. That's the upside down house. These are just, these are not necessarily what will be built, but it's kind of a general idea about
So I would accept that the footprints are out of view of the road. But what's the elevation drop from the road to the footprint? What's the elevation, proposed houses? These are probably gonna be 2-story houses,
Single story.
single story,
Correct.
okay? So, I mean, again, I haven't seen that in any of the presentation at this point. So I'm feeling like it's a little light.
Okay.
A little like what?
A little light,
Oh, light.
as in not complete.
Nick, any concerns? Any-
Would a Google Earth help in any way? Try to bring that up, kind of see a better angle versus the picture.
I mean, frankly, there's one individual in the community way back when put a ladder in a balloon to represent the height of the house, and he put it at the site of the proposed footprint lot on another parcel, but it was a similar situation where the ground fell away from the main road.
Sounds familiar.
So it's a matter of illustrating, and this was on, from
It's the old stage.
Old Stage.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah, Old Stage, no, Old Stage. Yeah,
oh, my, yes,
that's the first one that came in.
yes. Yes.
There were no pictures taken from Old Stage looking east. And it appears that the contours are such that these would be well below Old Stage, but was there any pictures taken?
Not from Old Stage, no, because the corridor, the view corridor, was specifically along Colonel Page at that point, and that I don't have that in this package, but it is part of what information was submitted as to what the specific area of concern was. That's what we addressed.
Nick, we're always coming to you, and
Thank you, Sharon, for offering Google Earth. No, I think we can piece it together, or I can anyway. And right now, I don't have any further questions.
Stephanie, after seeing the pictures.
I don't have any concerns.
Hubie, we've heard from you.
Absolutely.
Trevor.
No questions.
And are you satisfied at the moment with the renderings that that Kent was able to put up?
Well, I'm just a little confused. The scenic overlay district. The idea is that the houses that are built are not going to block the scenic views. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Or have as
Well, I mean-
little impact as possible.
I see. Well, I mean, just looking at those pictures, I
2.20,
I don't have a clear idea of
page 46, maybe.
you know, what is really going on and will it block the view.
Okay.
That would just be my comment.
We had a suggestion to take down the picture of the house and put up one of the landscape for an additional review.
And to be clear, it's not just the mountains.
Correct. Sharon, while Kent is pulling up the information, did you have any additional comments or questions?
I tend to agree with Justy that I'm not really, you know, I can't really
sit
tell.
well.
I can't really tell what's being interfered with or not.
Is this the plan somebody was looking for?
I think it was more about the picture of the view, the pictures that you had, which were great, but rather than the house, the picture that had the view from.
I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is there wasn't an image that showed what the view would look like once the houses were there.
Correct.
So you didn't supply one that showed what the houses would look like.
We certainly can. You know, we'll retrofit some houses in there and send them in.
I can confirm from living across the street that those houses are down the road and won't be blocking the view of the mountains. The house that's already there will be blocking the view before you even get to these new houses. So this is not impacting any view.
That was Jessica talking?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
It is, public hearing is still open, so.
Public hearing is still open, yes. If you'd like to come up and speak, that's certainly fine. You'd like to come up and say something?
I was just trying to be helpful. That
No, thank you, Jessica. We have somebody here in the room that
It's an observation.
an observation. Certainly, you're welcome to come right up and give us your observation.
Can you, one of you gentlemen?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take a seat right here?
Thank you.
This is more a recommendation.
If you don't mind stating your name and state for the record. Yeah.
It's my understanding that the building that's an issue on Route 15 View Corridor, the rendering of the building that showed the landscape in the background being visible was presented at about 20 feet off the ground, as opposed to street level where people would be walking or driving. So it might be important to specify that when people come forward with these kinds of proposals, that they verify that the height at which the angle is being viewed is within the range of a human being.
Fair enough. Thank you for the observation. So then, board members, are we at a position where we have any other questions? Should we have further discussion about this?
Can I just ask a question?
Please.
This row of trees that you're showing along the road here, if you did provide an image that would show what the buildings would look like, are those trees blocking where the buildings would be, or can you see, would you be able to see through, or would the buildings?
It would be blocking majority of, especially coming from the north side. There's trees all around it. It would be, you wouldn't be able to see the houses going down Colonel Page towards Alderbrook.
And certainly not from Old Stage, I mean, to the east.
No. Trees would have to be cut down for that to be viewed.
And remind me, the green trees
Are existing.
Are existing, and the reds were the existing apples.
Correct, and those are all being preserved.
Correct. So really, the only house that really would be in question, Old Stage looking east, is the one that's proposed for Lot 2, really, and that's because that's only got a single tree between Old Stage and it.
Correct, but it's also down below where
Right.
the
Other house already is.
Right, and the other house the other house.
Right,
doesn't-
so-
wouldn't- right.
where you see the existing house, there's trees, I don't know, some evergreens that are about 60 feet tall.
Right.
That block all that.
Can I?
Please.
So, this is where I'd like to have a more detailed discussion on the site, on the scenic overlay review. Because when you get into the site development and design standards, it talks about clustered development, building envelopes to minimize loss of open land and so forth. So it's not just the view, it's also the layout and the proposed. And I don't really see this, being, I don't feel that it's necessarily, maybe it's been done, that level of review's been done, but I haven't seen it. So, again, it's different than the previous parcel that we looked at with you, but as we evidenced with that one, there was a lot of back and forth on clustering of houses, not clustering of houses, where do they fit together best? Just saying that push back all the way to the far edge of the field isn't necessarily the best for the layout of the, does it fit with the layout of the land? I don't know, I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen the review brought to us. So again, I'm feeling that this is we're not giving it the due that it deserves, the review that it deserves. And again, it may have been done, but we haven't seen it.
Okay. Sharon, is that a similar take that you have?
Yes.
Trevor?
One meeting I
Yes.
agree with you, next meeting I agree with her.
Okay. Nick,
One meeting I agree with
how are you feeling?
next meeting I'm agreeing with her. It's happening to me.
It sounds like we, if there's a motion to move forward, I would like to hear it. If there's a motion to collect more information from the applicants, I'd like to hear that as well. So,
As a potential continuance to collect the additional data?
so I think it's in another board member's purview that their preference is leaning that way.
Stephanie?
I disagree. I think it's going to preserve what the intent is. I don't see an issue with it. So I would be. I don't see the need for more.
I tend to agree with Stephanie in the sense that I don't see any particular issues with this. However, I much prefer to see a board operate with consensus that we all agree. If there's, it seems to me not a big deal to continue this and get this additional information that at least two board members are looking for. And then my sense is that then we could probably all agree. But, so anyway, because the view from Old Stage, to me, clearly, that's not an issue. The contours are such that it looks like those houses are well below, but the other questions, yeah, I would be in favor of continuing. Let's get everybody happy.
In fairness to the applicant, I would, if there's 4 board members, it's maybe a straw vote ahead, but if there are 4 board members who are supportive of this, is it fair to the applicant? And I appreciate full consensus, but it's not, we don't need full consense.
Correct.
No, I know that. I know that. I realize that. I'm just saying that.
I look at this from the perspective of, like, I don't want to create additional havoc or additional time frame for the applicants. We've seen this a few times and already, and can appreciate the effort that they're putting into this. But at the same time, I feel that as the new DRB, if we're missing a portion of the packet that would help us with the scenic overlay in particular, I feel, just in my own personal opinion, I feel like a continuance for just, even if the work has been done and just needs to be part of the packet so that we can review it, I think it's appropriate for us to do that. Just to lay that as a foundation and groundwork for the DRB moving forward, that we would have all of those pieces going forward. I don't foresee that there's going to be an issue with this, but I think it makes sense for us, from my personal opinion, to take that one extra step to make sure that we have the packet as complete as possible. So, Trevor had said, I think he was in favor of continuing.
I would offer a motion to continue this, if that's what you would be looking for that now.
I would just say that in the future, that we need to do a better job communicating to the applicants what we want to see. Because I agree, I think we've almost wasted some time because it doesn't seem like it was properly communicated what is needed for a full packet to be reviewed in this district. And so that doesn't affect what we're gonna, but I would just say to staff, like, in the future, let's make sure that we let them know exactly what it is that they need to provide so that we can do this in a time is money. And let's make sure that we do it in a succinct and speedy way, because I feel like we are now wasting some time because they weren't given proper direction and what they should have provided.
Question?
Please.
Would you like a site visit?
That was gonna be part of my motion, actually.
And I also, just as a little FYI, both of these gentlemen went through the same thing with the subdivision up at 60 Colonel Page Road, so they know exactly what you're talking about and the concerns.
Yep.
And we did do the site visit out there.
In all fairness, this is the first time that this board
Correct.
has seen this,
Exactly.
this proposal.
Correct.
So if I were to offer a motion to continue,
I just want to mention, I did go out and see the site with them ahead of time and looked at it. When I was reviewing it and the materials they provided, to me it seemed reasonable and within the what I was interpreting as being the review process for this. But I understand that it's not just because I saw it and I was feeling a certain way. The materials weren't provided in a way that you'd have that same experience. So I appreciate that, and I'll make sure that the packet's more complete next time and provide that information. I didn't think it was going to be that big of an issue, so I try to bring the things up in the report that I feel like are going to be the big issues, and all the other stuff that I feel like is not going to be a big issue, I just take it out so that it's easier for you to focus on that. So I'm sorry that I didn't include
I
that in
appreciate
there.
it.
Thank you. Okay, so then,
And if you are thinking of a continuance, our April 3rd meeting is available light.
perfect.
So
Perfect.
that would be a good time to do it, and we usually do it like an hour before
for site visit. Yep.
the meeting date, if you wanted for the site visit, yes. So I just throw that out there for whoever we can see.
Perfect.
Thank you. So I'll certainly take a motion on this.
So I would move that we continue this application to the next available date and request a site visit in advance of that meeting to be able to better demonstrate the layout to the board members.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
And I have a question.
You may.
Just in advance, could be the same day of the meeting? Yeah, okay.
So we have a motion by Dusty. It's been seconded by
Sharon.
Sharon. Any other discussion on this?
And just to clarify, the big, from my perspective, the big piece that's missing is the full review, scenic overlay review from the packet that we have tonight.
Correct. Any other discussion? All those in favor of continuing this to the next available date with the site visit and the public hearing will remain open? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. So the motion carries on a vote of 5-2. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Nick and Trevor.
Nick and Trevor. Okay.
So before we go too far, are all of you, we meet at 6:30, so is 5:30
That can be available for
time
that.
to meet at
No.
the site? Or is that something you want us to email you?
Just for,
Always love a good email.
yeah, for
Send it.
expediency, just send the
Put it
email.
in my
and-
calendar.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Thank you.
April 6th?
April
Second,
second,
April 3rd.
third,
third, yeah.
third.
That's why a good email is always
Yeah,
good, because
that's
it's
right.
in writing.
So I'll put a choice of 5 or 5:30.
Thank you.
When you answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next item that we have is the final subdivision from Allenbrook Development. Kent, would you like to give us a quick rundown?
So this is going to be a a 5-lot subdivision with 4 lots, 4 new lots being created and the remaining 5th lot being the remaining land. It includes the creation of a new public road, both within their property areas and continuing a new road down to Route 117, River Road. And then there's, following this, a boundary line adjustment that relates to this project for a couple of the other properties affected by the lower part of the road. So that's how the boundary line adjustment fits in. Later, I think the main thing that came from the last, when this was in for preliminary, is since this road doesn't connect all the way to the upper area of Thompson Drive, there was the question that came up about when is that connection going to be made in the future? What are the plans for that in the future? And the DRB had asked the applicant to provide what their plan was, or a proposal for how the road might be connected in the future, and you provided that, so thank you. On line 164, I provide their 2 options that they had. Their first option related to the way the current development is happening with their sand pit and other things on the property. That work would need to be done before they would do their 3rd phase of development, which would be the connecting road phase, and they were estimating that might happen approximately 10 years from now, or happen at least 10 years. It would be at least 10 years in the future before that would happen. They provided a second option of if there were other land changes that might happen in that area and open up some other development potential that could happen along the road, then renegotiating the agreement that they have for how the area gets developed. Depending on that, how that would happen, the road could be maybe created 2 to 3 years after that new agreement would be in place. So it would take some amount of time to get a new agreement in place, and then perhaps 2 to 3 years after that is when the road could go in. The staff looked at this a bit and came up with another option that's provided on line 187 that seemed to be the direction that staff would put forward, and that would be creating an escrow account where when these 4 properties are subdivided and then as they're developed, each of those site plans would contribute a quarter to the future cost of that road connection, so that by the time the 4th one is created, then there would be enough money to be able to do the road. That seemed like the most feasible plan that staff was putting forward. That would still require an effort to put together an independent cost estimate, which would need to be agreed on by both the applicant and Public Works to make sure that everybody's happy with it and it works out for everybody. So that's what staff's putting forward. Let's see if I think that was the main issue. There are quite a few conditions at the end, but none of them seem to be. There seem to be a lot of smaller things and a lot of boilerplate conditions at the end. But the main issue is really how to resolve and come up with a plan for that road connection.
This was the application that also had a question about the, was it the right-of-way, the waiver, non-waiver, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
And just for public. Mind outlining, mind outlining that, just for public consumption.
Yeah, so let me find the spot there. So they had asked for, sorry. Here we go. They'd in the finding 5. It talks about it where when they were asking for a waiver for maintaining the 50-foot landscape buffer along each of the properties. They were hoping to get that done at the subdivision level that we're in right now, and the DRB previously had approved that, although after that it occurred to us that actually that has to happen at the site plan level when each of those different lots come in for a site plan review is when it needs to happen. So it just needs to happen at a later time.
Thank you. Board members, questions for staff about this? Nick?
None right now.
Stephanie?
Not at the moment.
QB?
I was curious, I believe that this portion was a previous sand extraction area way back. I think Hector Leclerc did a sand extraction there.
Yep.
And I'm curious, are there any conditions that linger? Anything that is hanging fire from that sand extraction that may apply here?
They are not. They reclaimed, actually Hector had quite a time, and when Al purchased, he had taken over that. The last parcel, the last reclamation just had a hard time taking it, but they finally got it, but it took a few tries.
Okay, so there's nothing outstanding as far as that other. Okay. I know, for full disclosure, I walk out in that area quite a bit. I was out there when they were doing some boring and so on, so I'm reasonably familiar with it. And I'll talk a little more later about the trees.
Dusty?
All set.
Trevor, you're big on the screen, so we'll get your input.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Sharon, any questions for staff on this?
Yeah, that's why I had my hand up.
Yeah. Sorry.
I guess I'm not big enough.
No, you are now. You are now.
I had a quick question for Kent. I love the escrow idea. I think that solves a lot of problems. But the last sentence, it's an independent party will determine the cost to be agreed upon by Public Works and the applicant. What if they don't agree? What happens?
Comes back to you, and you guys will
They
vote yes or no.
Right, they wouldn't be able to get a zoning permit.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. If we're good with questions, I believe we take a motion to open it up to public hearing.
So moved?
I'll second.
Okay. Moved by Dusty, seconded by Nick. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed? None? Motion passes 7-0. At this point, we'd take any comment from anybody in the public that would like to address either the staff with questions or the applicant. Is there anybody in the room that would like to have some comment or questions? I see Taylor online. Taylor, remind me, Taylor, did you take the oath at the beginning?
I did, yes.
Yes, correct. I remember now. Yep. Go right ahead. You have a question for...
Yeah, so my question more so has to do with the new turn lane kind of being developed to get up to the new development on Route 117. Now my understanding is that the town technically owns a certain amount onto your property. Is that correct? Like from the road onto your property, they own a certain amount?
It's a state road.
It's a state road. Yeah.
So no.
But yes, the state does own it, not
Okay, so the state owns it. My apologies. Okay. So how much of that does the state own? Do you guys know that?
Yes, we do. We have a plan in our plan set that shows the existing right-of-way associated with 117 and the turn lane staying within that right-of-way.
Okay. So one question that we had was, so once this new roadway is kind of developed, does that mean that the state is now going to own a new 10 feet towards our house?
Nope, the right-of-way doesn't move.
Okay.
The only thing that they'll have to maintain further is a third lane, eastbound, westbound, and then there'll be a turn lane.
Okay. And I'm sure that this has been discussed, and I, definitely not been part of all these meetings. I just bought a home on River Road in September, so I'm sure that this has been probably discussed, so my apologies if this is a repeat, but is there a reason why the road can't be extended the other way, where there's not houses, and it's not bringing the road closer to folks' houses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as you move towards the intersection, and you probably know this, there's a guardrail on the north side of 117, and there's a rip-rap slope down to the Brook right there. So it's very steep. The state was in there when they redid the intersection a few, probably 5-6 years ago, 8 years ago, and I lose track of time, but they were in there, and it's a pretty treacherous slope going down that way. So if we extend it to the north side, we have to move that slope and essentially move the Brook, which the state of Vermont and likely the town won't be interested in.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And then, I think that was my only question, just as someone whose house sits closer to the road than any of the other houses near me. We just were curious about that because it's obviously going to have more of an impact on us than it is on our neighbors whose houses sit back further. So I just wanted to ask that and make sure that I had a full understanding of, why it couldn't, and that makes sense. So
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. I'd like to take a moment and recognize the fact that I'm realizing I didn't ask if you guys would like to address the staff or have any questions now.
Wasn't
I'm
sure
just
we
realizing,
get
so,
back to that or
yeah, so Ken, I do see that you have your hand up, but I'd like to give the applicants an opportunity to talk to staff as well, but after we had our quick rundown. So I will come back to you, Ken, but I just would like to give the applicants a moment. So if you guys don't mind, once again, announcing who you are and.
Yeah. Brian Courier, O'Leary Burke Civil Associates, project engineer.
I'm Al Senecal with Allen Brook Development.
So I thought I would talk briefly about the changes that have occurred since we were last here. I think this is probably the second project that's been in front of the DRB multiple times. Last time we were in front of you, there were questions about street trees along the curb section of the roadway. We met with Public Works. They indeed do not want street trees within their right-of-way, so therefore the plans reflect that. We were able to work out EPSC measures. As you remember at our last meeting, we're proposing hydroseed in stages as the roadway gets constructed up from 117, so we were able to work out that issue. And there was discussion around a broke-back curve that existed within the roadway, and we were able to smooth that out. So those were the bigger questions that came up, or the homework you gave us in between preliminary and final. Regarding the 50-foot waiver request, the intent of that was just to provide symmetry and uniformity throughout the development. By getting that approved in subdivision, it all but assures that to happen. Now, the town attorney apparently has weighed in and wants us to do it at site plan, which is fine. You have two site plans that will be in front of you soon that are proposing to clear the 50-foot buffer and in exchange replant trees 50 feet on center. So the goals are the same, just going about it in a slightly different manner. And then I'd just like to talk about the other thing that you guys gave us was you wanted potential timelines, realistic potential timelines of when phase 3 would be constructed. So as Kent mentioned, we gave two potential options, one being the way things exist today, which when I was here last, we talked about the settlement agreement that exists between the town of Essex and Allen Brook Development, where they can't access the Phase 3 building area, which the roadway gives access to, until the sand pit is closed. Now, the sand pit's roughly about 20% full or completed. So we estimated that timeline to be roughly 10 years, but you know, we're not certain, but that's what we think. The other suggestion or potential option was we've already had discussions with the town around future land swaps, right? Basically, back when Allen Brook made the settlement agreement with the town, there's a 40-60 split between conservation and building area. 40% was in parcel B, which is where we're proposing the development. The 60% is the remaining lands that was deeded to the town. At that time, Allen Brook didn't own this adjacent 300-acre parcel that was formerly owned by Warren Palmer. It's immediately east of the development that's being proposed, and we show access to it through a right-of-way we're calling Phase 4. So part of those discussions are trading land on that Palmer piece equal to some land that exists along the future Phase 3 right-of-way that doesn't require the sand pit to be closed or the, doesn't require the sand pit to be closed in order for those lots to be accessed. Basically makes building the roadway between Chemo and Thompson economically feasible for a developer. Now, we've started those conversations. We were asked for another plan just a couple weeks ago. We've made ourselves available. Apparently, there's some new folks in the rec department who are reviewing the plan and our proposal for the swap. So we have high hopes that that will progress. And if an agreement can be reached, Al has stated that he likely will be able to sign an agreement to have that road built in 2 to 3 years. Now, we see that as the most economical. The town and developer are working together towards a common goal to get that roadway built. I have some comments regarding the proposed condition that staff has, but I figured I'd do that when I get to the approval condition. So if you have any more comments about what I've said, or if you want me to jump to the approval conditions, let us know.
Let's pause for a second and just talk, double check with the board members. Do you have any comments or questions for the applicants directly? And Ken, do not worry, I have not forgotten about you. Nick?
No.
Questions or comments?
No, sir.
Stephanie?
No, I have questions around this escrow thing, but not for the applicant.
Yep.
Yeah, I have some questions about the plans as they currently stand, but this new information here as far as the land swap and the potential for the road build, you know, need to let that soak in a little bit here. It's first hearing that, so understand.
We actually, I think, did hear that.
Yeah.
There was a discussion about it the last time I was here.
I don't know that we heard, I don't remember hearing 2 to 3 years before. I know that I heard land swap was being discussed.
Yes.
I'm not, you know, that's,
Yeah, the 2 to 3 years piece was in our cover letter. So I had stated 2 options. One was a 10-year long-term, as things exist today. And then the second option was, we feel has a lot of potential, the land swap.
yeah, I mean, I know how this stuff works, okay? You guys live with this. You know these things inside out.
Yes.
We get to see them.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's so absorbing
Yep.
all
Oh,
this
certainly.
information.
Oh, yeah.
okay? And there's a lot of pieces here.
Yeah.
A lot of pieces, so.
Nothing like living it for 10 years, you know?
Yeah, oh, no, I know. That's,
10?
Oh, yeah, some got 20,
Yeah.
some got more, but.
yeah.
Dusty?
I think what they presented absolutely delivered what I was looking for from the last meeting. I don't think any of the 3 options that are included, I don't think, you know, we have to, they are just options. I don't think we have to commit to any one of them.
Assign one.
They basically identified that there are plans and there are methods to get from point A to point B.
Right, which really I think was the main focus of our last meeting, was about how we were gonna get the road taken care of and what was the path for that more than anything else.
So what's the expectation for when there'll be a closure on this land swap deal? You sound optimistic.
I mean, I would hope within the next, I mean, usually municipal proceedings can be slow. Likely this would be select board jurisdiction. I don't have a good pulse on their agenda. A lot of these things are how busy the select board is and what else is going on in town. So, I mean, to be,
Catherine kind of.
yeah. I mean, I would say optimistically.
Get involved in it.
Yeah, optimistically, 6 months to a year, but really, some of that's out of our control.
Right.
We certainly will be reacting immediately to any meetings or any questions that they have for us. We've sent them a proposal on the lands that we're presently hoping to swap out, and we've shown them where they've built trails on our property. We're willing to give those trails and that land up for the property along the roadway. And if they want to tweak that or shuffle that in any way, shape, or form, we're more than happy to negotiate that out. So we would be able to react very quickly on that.
Sounds like this is one meeting where he does have the cards to play.
Oh, let's
The
not
one-
go there.
the one meeting. And I'm not showing that hand yet.
Let's not use that analogy.
Sharon, I'd like to make sure you have an opportunity.
Couldn't help it.
It seems like we're being asked to make a decision on maybe some land will be swapped in the future, 6 months to a year. I don't think I'm real comfortable with that.
If I get it correctly, I think there are 3 options that are available that
Right, yeah.
that can be, so there, it's not just the land swap, it's as is with a 10-year time frame.
Right,
And
right.
the other,
I'm
and the
just
other
not-
option would be the escrow, so.
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable with the particular option that I mentioned, that
Okay,
maybe
Yeah,
there's gonna be a land swap.
And we have quite a bit more to say about the escrow. I was just waiting to get to
Sure.
the approval conditions because it's in the approval conditions.
Yep.
As the conditions are written, you folks are proposing or mandating an escrow.
right.
So
We'll get to that.
we'll
Let me-
talk more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trevor?
I don't have any comments.
Okay, thank you. Should we get to the conditions now? I think we probably should get to the conditions now.
Well, I have a bunch of questions about the current plans.
Okay.
As they sit, okay?
Have you had enough time to let it ruminate?
Oh, yeah, well, no, these are the plans that we've been looking at, okay?
Yep.
One thing I'd really be interested in seeing cross sections for stations 11 through 33. And I find it interesting that you'd mentioned before that the state doesn't require cross sections, or cut fill information. And
What page are you looking at?
the primary plans.
Yep.
Stations 11 through 33. The real steep portion of the access road.
Yep, we got profiles for those.
Yeah, not profiles, cross sections.
Oh, okay.
Cross
Yep.
sections, okay?
Yep.
Because it's such a severe excavation fill kind of situation going on there. It's a doozy of a road to build there, okay? And anyway, you had commented once that the state doesn't ask for cut fill waste, whether it's a waste project or a borough project or whatever.
Yep.
And it seems interesting that whether it's a waste or a borough project, that has an impact on truck traffic and so on. It's interesting the state doesn't ask for that information.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd say typical cross sections, like you're probably used to seeing at V-Trans, are for state projects. So this is a town project, and Public Works does not require cross sections every, whatever,
Right.
100 feet. So we do the plan and profile, and the cuts are shown in plan view with contouring. So yeah, we know how many cubic yards are coming out in order to facilitate that
Okay,
cut.
so I guess, because that's one of the questions is that, so it is a waste project, clearly, or
Clearly.
it appears to be anyway.
Clearly, yeah.
Appears to be. So,
Yeah.
so you have a number there.
We do.
And that waste is gonna be stored somewhere, and we've talked about that before, about
Yep.
where it would be stored and,
Yep.
and handled and so on.
Yep.
So how many yards is that, approximately?
Yeah, I mean, we're estimating in the 3,000 to 4,000.
Only 3,000 to 4,000 yards,
Yeah, cubic yards.
okay?
One of the sites has a pretty big fill, so we're gonna use a lot of it on that site.
Okay, another question regarding the road permit. This land is owned by someone else, where the road is being built.
The land, correct. We have a development agreement in place to construct a public road and dedicate it to the town.
So this gets into, I don't know how this, got to pay the lawyers, all right? So how do these agreements work out? Is this agreement going to be between the landowner and the town, or is it going to be between you guys and the town?
Yeah. So we submitted an irrevocable offer of dedication that will be signed by the applicant and the landowner. So the town will get the irrevocable offer, and when the warranty period expires for the road, the select board will be able to act on it. Deeds will be written, and they'll adopt it and own the land just like any other road in town.
Okay, so it's a joint effort between you and the landowner.
Our agreement stipulates if
Yeah.
a public roadway is required, that process will take place.
Okay, so for all of the, for the water, sewer, stormwater, all of that stuff that's going to be in
It's
that
all in the
roadway,
right-of-way
it's
there.
all part of the deal.
Yep.
Um,
There's a stormwater pond outside, but the easement is able to be dedicated
Yeah.
to the town.
yeah. Another thing, something that doesn't show on the plans are other utilities like gas, telephone, cable TV, etc.
Yep.
Where are they coming from? Okay, they're coming from 117. Are they coming from Thompson Drive? I know the water is coming in from Thompson Drive.
Yep.
Is there, what is there a plan for where these other utilities are going to come from and where they might show on the plans?
Yeah, so private utilities, power, so we are showing a power layout.
Well, there's a
Yep.
power line that's there already, a portion of it.
So there's a power line existing overhead, three-phase on the eastern side where the lots are.
Right.
And then there's lines associated with the solar field. Some of them have to be moved.
Right.
For the road. We are showing new overhead power lines going down the Palmer Access Road and then going down the Phase 2 right-of-way to the southern boundary line where the lots are being proposed. So we're proposing overhead power on the new road once you get on top of the plateau, and then there's existing overhead power going up to the plateau and on the east side of the property. So there will be some new three-phase power overhead being done, as is consistent with Thompson Drive, Red Pine Circle, and Corporate Drive. Out this area, I know generally utilities are installed underground, but given there's so much overhead out there already, we're keeping with the trend, so to speak. All the services, though, are underground.
Okay, I was going to say, because the way one of the conditions is written, all utilities will be underground.
I got that one flagged.
That just needs
Yeah.
that needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but now, so what about, again, gas, natural gas, and
Yep, we
cable
expect
TV.
Vermont Gas to come from 117, but it's entirely up to them. They have mains on 117 Sand Hill, and they have a main at the end of Thompson Drive. So, as it's a private utility and not under the town's purview, they provide us with a gas layout prior to construction, and we implement it.
Yeah, so you haven't had any coordination with them necessarily as
We've started conversations, but usually we wait for a development proposal to reach a stage where changes are less likely to happen.
Yeah.
So as we're in for final, generally we reached out to Green Mountain Power and Vermont Gas like 3 weeks ago. So we're formulating those discussions then.
Yeah, because it does seem there might be opportunities if you're going to build the water line.
Yep.
That there might be some coordination, and I know again.
And we got 2 residences south that are involved in that boundary line adjustment who want to see natural gas come up that way. I hope they do, but it's totally out of our control. It's however they choose to serve us.
You bring up the 2 residents that are already there, the 2 existing houses.
Yep.
Because there's going to be a new sewer line going by there, are they obligated to connect to sewer?
Great question. We're showing stubs. They're not obligated to connect. One of them's in the AR district, which is outside of your sewer core. So we're showing a stub connection, but unless the town moves the sewer core line, they won't be able to connect to it. Now, one of the houses is in the I-1 district, north of the power lines. That one can connect to it. And we're also showing sewer stubs to the 3 home, actually, I think there's 5 homes down on River Road that are in the sewer core. The sewer core does kind of a funny little, there's an AR kind of zone south of the power lines, east of the Brook, that includes one of the homes as you go up on your left. But the 5 on River Road are all in the town sewer core. So we're giving sewer access to 7 homes. 6 of them can utilize it tomorrow or whenever it's built.
So how does that work? How's the town regulation written that if a sewer line goes by you, do you have to connect?
When you sell, if a sewer stub is stubbed to your property, and you sell, you have to connect to it. I've been involved in quite a few frantic phone calls right before a sale, saying I need a wastewater permit from the state of Vermont, and I got to connect to sewer line. So,
Okay, so there's.
hopefully they do it before
Or if
that.
the existing in-ground system.
If there's a fail.
If there's a septic
Choose
system,
to connect immediately.
they can
Yeah.
choose to connect.
Because I thought that at one point, when the initial sewer lines were built, that there was some obligation. If they went by your house,
Yeah.
you needed to connect. I don't know if there was point pollution involved or whatever, but.
Well,
so-
yeah, and I think they made the ordinance. I don't know if they changed it,
Yeah.
but I think they make it a little more passive.
Okay, so
indicated
I just
when you
wondering
sell.
if there was gonna be some burden on these houses here that, was, not understood.
No, personally, giving sewer service to these houses increases their property value pretty substantially.
Design speed for the road. I've seen 30, I've seen 25, I've seen 35, and I guess at one, what was the design speed that was used for design of the road?
So, the town of Essex road standards aren't based on design mile per hour. Okay, they're based on the type of road and length of tangents and radiuses based on those types of road. It's not like a V-Trans highway plan where the road designs and the super elevation are calculated based on, 50 versus 45 or whatever it may be. We don't set the speed limits. Public Works makes recommendation and those ordinances are carried out by the select board. So if they decide that 25 or 30 is adequate here, I think Thompson is 30. Yeah, so I would expect whatever the Thompson drive speed limit is, but that will be a decision by Public Works when this roadway is adopted and speed limits are posted.
Okay, so you didn't necessarily bounce off this curve design or whatever to any speed limit to say that, oh boy, what if we suggest 50? Would that work?
I don't think Public Works is suggesting.
Well, but I'm saying there's a limit there as to where the
Certainly.
design as it exists.
Yep.
There's a limit as to what would be the maximum speed.
In my opinion, 25 to 30 is right for this road. But that decision isn't made by me.
We don't make that decision.
Yeah, oh no, but again,
Yep.
you had some idea. You didn't design a 15-mile-an-hour road.
No.
Or you didn't design an
No,
80-mile-an-hour road.
The town has certain standards based on collector, minor, and we're adhering to those.
There wasn't a traffic study required. And when will there be, or will there be?
So we did do a traffic study. It was done by Corey Mack of Wall Consulting Group. That's why we're doing the left turn lane. We met the warrant analysis in the AM hour for the left turn lane on 117. So he did a traffic study for full build out of the industrial park. All right, so we look at basically estimated trip generation for full build out. And when you don't know what's going there, it can be pretty, can fluctuate quite a bit. Like a gym uses a lot of peak PM trips, a warehouse uses next to none. So I believe the traffic study that was done for the project anticipated, was it 80 trips? Or 100?
Just for the subdivision.
Just for the subdivision.
So I was just curious.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the 80 to 100 peak PM trips.
Yeah, I've never seen anything on traffic.
Yeah.
It's been submitted to the.
My guess is it might not have made it to your packet because it's like 100 pages.
Well, it could be consolidated into one.
Yeah,
or something.
I know we submitted it at preliminary and at final, and basically his conclusions were for the intersections that were evaluated, there would be no substantial change in level of service. So the only one that we're taking to level of service F is the North Williston Road 117 intersection. Now that intersection is on V-Trans capital improvement list.
Going to get a signal.
Through Act 145, we're going to be paying a pretty hefty impact fee as each lot gets built out. Through the Act 250 process, we'll be writing checks for traffic impact fees to that specific intersection. I also think we're getting pulled into the Sand Hill Route 15 improvement as well by the school.
Yeah. So, I guess it's maybe a question for the staff. Just curious why we never saw anything about traffic study.
Um,
All I do is provide a
if I can speak up. Oh, am I muted?
No, you are not. You're good.
Okay. I remember reading the traffic study, I think when you came before the planning board at some earlier stage. So there was a traffic study submitted.
Yeah, we did one at preliminary, and then it was resubmitted at final.
Okay, so it's, like I say, again,
Yep.
as has been mentioned, first time we're seeing this, first time I've seen this.
Okay.
So, it seemed that there was significantly missing.
I guarantee you, Public Works wouldn't let us sit here right now if you didn't.
I was gonna say, isn't, the assessment of the traffic study, isn't that generally done by Public Works, and we get a summary back then, or an assessment from them
Right.
on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's normally put in the agenda packet or.
No, but I mean, it's usually embedded in the
Usually
report
it's in their comments.
yeah, we get it from Public Works comments about the traffic.
Right, and
assessment.
Public Works has the comments in there, but I don't, but, you were asking about, you wanted to see the whole report.
Well, some at least comment about it, you know, that there's been a previous traffic traffic study submitted and previously approved in, you know, the sketch plan or whatever, but that's like, see, nothing, all right, so that's.
So
Yeah.
nothing's in the staff report now, so maybe that could be a piece
Well,
of
I
finding.
can assure you it was submitted, but
We don't have
the-
PC findings.
regardless of, you know, traffic studies, our transportation engineering is a slightly, you know, more specialized branch of civil engineering. So VTrans has a full-time traffic study person who reviews all of our studies. He has reviewed ours already and agrees with its conclusions and findings. And when we're into Act 50, we'll definitely get an entry of appearance from VTrans.
Yeah, and the design that you've shown for Route 17, that's reflecting that traffic study as far as the holding lanes and so on and so
The
on.
traffic study doesn't comment on like storage length, taper lengths, and you know all of the criteria that go into the left turn lane. It talks about level of service of the intersections, line of sight, you know, those sorts of things. It shows that a warrant is met in the AM hour at a certain trip threshold that we are exceeding with the site plans that will be in front of you soon. So it doesn't talk about the left turn lane specifically. It just says one's warranted. Now we're working with VTrans on our left turn lane design, and a highway access permit has already been issued for the curb cut for the new road.
So this design that we're seeing for 117 now
Yep.
may be tweaked.
It may be tweaked slightly as we work through the Act 50 process with VTrans, just
Yeah.
like any other state permit that's required.
Let's see, I have a couple of questions regarding the ESPC stuff.
Yeah, please.
One is on plans ST1. These are minor things, but
Yep.
ST are the storm plans.
ST1, Stormwater Plan 1.
Okay. So the erosion control plans start with E.
Well, yeah, I'm lumping them together, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
It's up near where the round catch basin 11 and 13 and so on. The blue line that you show is the extent of the drainage area.
Yep.
It doesn't seem to extend as far as maybe it should. Shouldn't it extend like to the top of that cut bank?
Yep. I'm working on our state stormwater discharge permit, or I was this week, and I have edited that. The reason it was drawn the way it is because in A soils, highly, infiltrative sandy soils, it doesn't really matter how big your drainage area is. It's mostly indicative of how much impervious it is. So if you run a HydroCAD model on A soils, essentially the drainage runoff is zero. So though the drainage area is less.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it just.
So it doesn't change the numbers much, but
Okay.
you're right.
Yeah, I just.
Correct.
Yeah, again, I don't
Yep.
know what all goes into all the calculations, but
I
it
know.
just seemed that.
Yep, no, you're right.
A little bit of area that wasn't included.
You're right.
Okay.
Yep.
ST2. stormwater design SN 003.
Yep.
It says, station 38 plus 40 is the end. The blue line that you show there shows it going to 39 and 50 or so.
Yeah, so the blue line is correct. The station in the
Station needs to be
station is not.
in the box there, right?
Yep. And as revisions happen.
Oh, I know.
That's where those
it's like-
things get missed. But
I
that's a
think
good
you two guys
catch.
should hang around the weekend before these meetings from now on.
Yes.
That's a good catch.
No, it just, and I know these are piddly things and there's all kinds of stuff that's changing all the time, but sometimes these things rear their head and end up being significant.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I appreciate you looking through things.
And now this is the biggie, okay? Is
Okay.
ST3. ST3.
Yep.
And I presume we're gonna be talking about this as well, but anyway, stormwater design 004. Same kind of thing, it says 38 plus 40, but it looks more like it's 3950.
Yeah, so it'd be the same thing as the last
Just
one.
needs to be tweaked
So
up.
what's drawn is
Yeah.
correct, but the
the
station
boxing is-
was likely a
Yeah.
former iteration of it.
So, and I say the biggie, and I guess that's the next thing I have is,
Yep.
we're talking about looking for a waiver for the 50-foot setback.
Okay.
And one of the things, it appears that the infiltration basins that are shown on ST3, why can't they be moved back so that they don't impact the 50-foot buffer?
Why can't the infiltration area be moved back so it can't impact the 50-foot buffer?
Move further away from the road
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so that the 50-foot buffer could be sustained in those areas.
Yeah. So that infiltration practice is snugged up next to the right of way on purpose because that treats stormwater runoff associated with the town road.
Right.
So it's purposefully next to the right of way, and the easement, one of the 4 easement lines, well, what's inclusive of that infiltration area. There's 3 easement lines, and then the 4th one is the right of way. So it's for ease of maintenance by Public Works. If I sock that one behind Al's building that he's proposing on that lot, Public Works isn't going to be happy with me.
So it would require some additional work to provide access for maintenance.
Access is the primary goal, yeah. We could slide it back a little bit, but generally the way the 50-foot buffer has been treated by the Planning Commission in this district is in order to, we've asked to clear in order for uniformity, but within that 50-foot buffer, stormwater facilities have been provided along the streetscape. So it's consistent with what's on Thompson, Red Pine, Corporate. Generally, the Planning Commission historically has been interested in a uniform streetscape, which has been 50-foot, or will be 50-foot trees spaced on center, just outside of the right-of-way. So this design facilitates that goal, while also using the 50-foot buffer area, which, a buffer is different than a setback, where I can't put a parking lot in a buffer, but I can in a setback. So the parking lot is set back 50 feet as well. So it kind of creates this no man's land between the right-of-way and the 50-foot buffer that we've historically utilized for stormwater treatment practices.
Okay, so given that, fine.
Mm-hmm.
The 50-foot waiver that you're looking for.
Yeah, well, I'm not allowed to look for it now, but yes,
Well, yeah,
in the future,
that
yeah.
you will be looking for.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and so again, we're not deciding that now. It's been clarified that it's going to be with site plan or whatever.
Yep.
But I would suggest that this particular area is not like the rest of the area, in that this was reclaimed because it was sand extraction.
Okay.
The trees in there are not the same. They're not these these crazy high red pines that exist in the other part. What are these, like 20, 30 foot high pine? What kind of trees are they and so on?
They're white and red pine.
They're white and red pine. So I think the existing landscape is different because that has been reclaimed, as opposed to the other areas of Thompson Drive, et cetera, where, some of those red pine plantations, which I fully understand, when you open them up, they become subject to the wind and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think in the future, that's something that needs to be considered.
Yeah.
Regulation written for a reason to make 50-foot, to sustain the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah.
And I think there has to be real good reason for waiving that particular thing. So something to think about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we would be interested in finding from this, maybe if we can't get a condition, we would be interested in finding a fact from the DRB that would give, more leverage to the site plans about the uniformity. So I'm more than happy to continue the discussion, but there's more consideration than just telephone poles that blow over on cars. We've found that building the road and grading past the right-of-way into these buffers really fragment them. Plus, utility runs through the buffer, curb cuts. If you look at Corporate Drive, the parts where they've been saved,
there could be an argument about how much of an effort was made to save them as well. Okay, and I agree that was primarily in a red pine plantation area, which was has more. What do I say? It's subjected to the different conditions than exist here. I guess saying that I believe this area is different than Corporate Drive, different than some of the existing Thompson Drive area and so on, where those red pine were an issue.
Okay. And I would just say, we had a pretty long discussion at preliminary, and it seemed like the Planning Commission, the DRB, was in favor as much of the idea that we were actually issued an approval for that direction. And we've taken that direction towards producing site plans that do show the buffer being cleared, stormwater facilities being in those areas, and a uniform streetscape being proposed just outside of the right-of-way to match the other parts of the industrial park.
And you will notice, if you did walk up there, when they cut those paths through there, because the trees have been planted so close together, and they were planted when they were little puppies.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're so tight that when you do cut a section of them, it leaves a big brown, bare side of the trees. So I think the town will do better by having us or allowing us to plant new trees in that buffer area, because those little white pines that have been growing so close together are just ugly branches when you start cutting them apart.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Well, yeah, we can talk about white pines forever, but
well, that's what they are.
Yeah, I know.
And there's some red pines mixed in.
And there's some. Yeah. Well, I guess from and I know the waiver option is there for a reason. And I mentioned it last time. I'm not saying that waivers are out of the question, but by the same token, the regulation says the 50-foot buffer should be maintained. So we're it's a little bit between a rock and a hard place if we're supposed to rule on the regulation, okay? So.
Correct, except for there's decades of precedent that supersede this application. How heavy that weighs with you personally?
I think that's something
only
that
you
we're
can
not-
decide, but
And that's something we would get to when we look at the next phase.
But I'm happy to
Site plan.
have a roundtable here because we really appreciate finding a fact, because you're going to have two site plan applications in front of you fairly shortly that take what the DRB gave us as direction 2 months ago and facilitate stormwater facilities within that buffer, clearing, and a uniform streetscape that seemingly all the folks present at that meeting were in favor of.
Could I offer a historical perspective on this, or from applications over the last decade plus? Some of the buffer, the sanctity of the buffer, or the presence of the buffer was never debated at the Planning Commission. What was debated was the content of the buffer. Did the buffer have to be maintained with exactly the vegetation that existed at the time the development was approved, or was the buffer maintained as a no-build area between the town or the road and the setback? And we actually had commentary from the town tree warden, who expressed concern over the different species that were coming in with each application, And he was advocating for consistency along the entire streetscape. So that's where a lot of that commentary came from, is the tree warden was saying, let's make sure we have salt resistant species, the right species for the roadways and so forth along Allen Martin, Corporate, Thompson, and so forth. So that direction came within reason. The much of the discussions on the buffer, there's a contingent that thinks the buffer is inviolate. You can't touch anything within it. Corporate Drive was a great example. It wasn't the red pines that were the issue there. It was the scrub brush. Much of it was not well advanced. It was primarily understory. Is that what the right terminology is? Or it was not good streetscape in any form or fashion. So the decisions to modify the buffers, the content of the buffer was based on what was already there. It wasn't going to be long-term growth. It wasn't going to be maintained. It was going to be not what was interpreted as good planning at the time. So the dimensions of the buffer were never allowed to be corrupted. No parking lot. There were times that there was requested to put a little bit of the parking into that space, and that was rejected. The only thing that would go in there was utilities, and that approach the town had already taken in other areas within the RPDI by running a sewer and water easement down one of the log roadways along the section that is between Allen Martin and Perry Drive and that logging road. So the precedent, that's the word I was thinking of, using that buffer for utilities was already established throughout the RPDI. In fact, the 200-foot buffer, the only intrusion allowed into that was for utilities, and that's the outer buffer area. So I think the design point that the Planning Commission went with was dimensionally it was not going to be violated, but it could be used for utility type intrusion. So that's just historically that's how that started to develop.
I would say there are three buffers: the 50-foot front yard, 200-foot abutting residences, and 100-foot periphery, no matter what.
It actually right.
And the 100 and 200, the Planning Commission has been very strict on. They wouldn't even allow us to replant in that area, if I remember correctly. So, it's not the only type of buffer. There's a 100-foot buffer that's being left totally in its existing state on the eastern side of the development. So it's not that all the buffers are being waived. It's just the ones along the road.
No, I understand that.
So I mean, that's just for discussion purpose. That's
yeah. No, and I appreciate that, and I guess that's and not to belabor this any further, that it might be something the Planning Commission might want to think about how that is actually worded.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty strongly worded. It's pretty strongly worded about that 50-foot buffer, and some of what I'm hearing is that we're going to wipe it all out and then we're going to replant it. And I'm suggesting that, there might be other options. You might sustain some portions of it, and each one needs to be looked at individually and so on.
I think
But the way that it's written,
I think the Planning Commission has a lot of new things to work on moving forward. So
anyway, I'm
Just to
done.
add to Dustin's comments
I
about
saw.
Chuck Vile, the town tree warden, he also was concerned about the trees that were cut the remaining trees would eventually die as well, because that's just, that was his spiel.
Sharon.
Thank you. I sort of agree with Hubie that I don't think it was ever the intent for the buffer to be clear cut and replaced with other things. And I don't see precedent with that. I mean, I think we've waived the 50-foot buffer a lot, but waivers aren't precedent. They're waivers and exceptions. So, maybe we made some mistakes continually waiving the 50-foot buffer, which isn't the intent of the regulations. And I also want to back it up to those 5 houses that are going to have the sewer go by them. That
Sure.
Hubie was asking about. I think you do have to connect to the sewer. I think you're required by the town, maybe not.
Sharon, I think I agree with that. That needs to be confirmed.
Because, you know, we had to, in my neighborhood, have a lawsuit not to connect until we sell, but then they're still going to have to connect when they sell, so it's going to be quite an expense. And if you talk to any realtor, I think it should increase the price of a home, but it doesn't increase the price of your home value to be on sewer versus a septic. So those people along that road are going to have quite an expense. It's not cheap to attach to sewer, and they're going to have to do it someday.
Now, just to be clear about this, Public Works is requiring sewer services.
Oh, I get it.
All right.
So
We don't have a dog in the fight one way or the other.
No, it's not your fault, but Hubie was asking, so I just wanted to make that clear.
If you remember, or if anybody besides Sharon who lived there, I think at the time, but the Tanglewood extension generated a lot of controversy because it at that point you didn't have to connect when the sewer went down through. You could, because the excavations were happening and would be potentially reducing that cost. The conversion to sewer would be required if the in-ground system failed. They wouldn't be allowed to replace it with another, in-ground septic if sewer ran by the property.
Yeah,
and that was a point of big point of contention.
And it's very expensive now. You have to pay the connection fee, and then you might have to do a lot of digging, you fill in your sewer tank, but...
So,
it's still cheaper than replacing your septic system.
Yes.
Quite a bit cheaper.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, folks have said that when they've come in to pull permits, that it's...
If you can find a spot to put it.
but not part of today's application.
But yeah,
Not part of today's application.
That's
no.
probably
I
not relevant.
typically bringing municipal infrastructure to homes is generally viewed as a positive. I would mention.
I still find it hard to believe that you have to connect to a sewer line just because it crosses.
I know, it's not your fault,
Sounds
just
like it's
that,
unconstitutional to me.
yeah.
I think
I guess you could have a protest.
Yeah.
it might have been part of the federal grant money, that in order to build this sewer system, you had to prove point pollution, but you also, maybe you had to guarantee that you're gonna have so many people hooked up, I don't know. Anyway, I thought, I thought that it was a requirement. Sewer went by your house, you had to hook up.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Two different triggers. So one is failure of existing system or selling the property.
That's what I've been involved in, is the sales mostly.
So then I think it would let everybody know that you guys excavators are going to be going by, and if they want it, you dig them a trench and
Sure.
Yep.
Sometimes not quite that easy, but okay.
a little dynamite, a little whatever.
Need a permit?
Sharon, do you have additional questions as well?
Just digging a hole.
Sharon, your hand's still up. Do you still have additional questions? Okay.
No, thanks.
Yeah. I do want to make sure I get an opportunity for Ken to say something, but before I do, I just want to make sure. Nick, do you have anything? No?
Nothing more.
Stephanie?
I want to talk about the escrow.
Okay, we'll get there. The escrow.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
didn't sound.
Trevor, did you have anything at this point? No? Ken, it is now finally your time, and I'm so sorry you had to wait so long, but please, thank you for leaving your hand up the whole time. I appreciate that as a reminder.
It was a while.
It was.
So we've discussed this project quite a bit at Conservation and Trails, and I have 4 things I'd like to ask about. I heard the applicant say that Public Works did not want trees in the right-of-way on the new road. Could they please disclose who exactly said that?
That would be a staff question, I
That's
believe.
a staff question.
Yes, that would be a staff question. Well, no, the applicant who said it.
Doesn't matter. Questions come to the board and staff first.
Yeah, I think that's the sense of Aaron Martin.
Yeah, it
Was
seems like
that my
a
understanding?
pointed and, pointed question.
It's a question. We've discussed trees with the with the Public Works Director quite a bit, and he did not give us that impression ever, so it was quite a surprise to hear. And I want to address it with him. So Aaron Martin is the name?
Aaron's the Director of Public Works, so.
That's my understanding, but I could be wrong. It could have been somebody else, but that's.
Start with Aaron, and he will sort of speak to if it's Andy or Dan.
I'll reach out to Aaron and ask him about that, and if it's somebody else, hopefully he'll know. That's a rather significant concern to the Conservation and Trails Committee, certainly. Second item is, at Conservation and Trails, we recognize that this new access to the bike recreation area and hiking trails is going to be quite attractive. In the staff report is our recommendation. I wonder if the applicant has given any consideration to the fact that there's going to be a lot of recreational users accessing the recreational area through this new road.
Yep.
So we have given that some thought. When Al built Thompson Drive, he constructed what was supposed to be I think it was supposed to be a 15-space parking lot. There's probably 30 cars parked there on average.
It overflows now.
Peak mountain biking day. So we understand the concern. As part of our land swap agreements with the town, we're proposing a future parking lot of substantial size for the area in a consolidated place. So not as part of this application, but we are having we hope to have further discussion with the recreation folks about where a permanent parking lot may be that's, designated for the amount of use it gets, rather than a temporary one on private property just on Thompson Drive. So that's in the works, but not part of this application.
All right, well, just keep in mind that people will drive up that road and attempt to access the recreation area from this new road, whether there's a parking lot made available there or not.
Yep.
Third item, I heard Chuck Vile quoted a number of times, and something specifically was said that he would like tree consistency if planting, either in the right of way or in the 50-foot buffer. I would urge you to make sure that when you're quoting recommendations from the tree warden, you get them in writing, because I'm quite certain that Chuck Vile would not want consistency of species planted, judging from what's happened with emerald ash borer and Dutch elm disease. Everybody knows that a monoculture is a bad thing, and certainly Chuck does, and I'd be quite surprised if he would support that concept.
Ken, can I respond to that?
Certainly.
He wanted a streetscape. He didn't want consistency of species. He wanted a consistent streetscape with robust and species that would exist, the correct species to exist in the space.
And
so it wasn't salt tolerant and so forth.
And he reviews that every time we submit a
Right.
plan.
Streetscape is the term that we were trying to,
All right,
consistent
I just heard
streetscape.
consistency, and I did not hear the scape part of it. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, final thing. At this point, are there any waivers from regulations being considered?
Not for this application.
Not in this application.
I meant in this application, sorry. The answer is no then? Okay. Am I hearing that right?
That is correct.
All right, good. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else here in the room that would like to have some questions either to staff or to the applicants about this project?
You guys didn't even have to pay for admission to this,
That's right.
So I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. Is there anyone online? I want to make sure that we have opportunity to ask questions for staff or for the applicant regarding this application. Seeing none.
I have two questions. We can close the public hearing if you want. It's for staff and applicant.
Yeah,
However you want to do it.
since I see no hands in the room and no hands online. No one has spoken up. I would take a motion to close the public hearing.
I would recommend leaving it open just in case it sparks additional comments or questions.
Fair enough.
Okay, take a swing. First one is referring to line 301 and 437, condition 5, and that is referring to the 301 is if applicant anticipates dedicating Palmer Road to the town, the approach grade must be not exceed 3%. And then condition 5 codifies that as a condition of this application. The fact that it says if, I actually would offer that we strike condition 5 completely, because it's an if, it's not, I'm having a hard time building that in. Similar to the build out of the road, it's a future effort that is an if. So, if it's not actively part of this application, I don't see how we can add it in there. Condition 5, line 437.
So we do throw a profile for Palmer Lane. We're just not building the whole thing. We have it at 3.1%. So.
I again,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
see it as part of this application. I know you've got it on there, but you're not proposing to build it. And quite frankly, if you came in and wanted to build that out, you know that you're going to have to do it at 3%. So I'm just
Fair.
From my point of view, I don't see it's applicable to this app.
Yep.
And that's not to strike line 301 because that's a recommendation for Public Works. I would strike the condition 5.
Line 437.
But
Yeah. I'm not trying to hurt you guys. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I don't see it.
That's fine.
I have it on 437 now.
Well, that's your copy. Well, my copy is 437.
437.
437.
Next item.
14 of 18.
Next item gets back to Stephanie's item that she wanted to talk about was the whatever the hell you want to call
Escrow.
it. The
Escrow.
escrow. Okay, I don't see any reason to change that other than on line 196. I don't think the cost estimate has to be approved by Public Works and the applicant. Anything has to be approved by Public Works and accepted by the applicant. That's just in a finding.
Finding what number, sorry?
Finding that's on line 190, page 196, line 196.
196.
And I apologize, and so you're recommending you don't need that?
No, I'm line 196. I would say and accepted by the applicant,
Okay.
approved by Public Works and accepted by the applicant. That will open it for them to make a discussion. We don't. But then we go to condition 8, line 445. I think we should.
We have a lot to say about it.
I would strike condition 8 in its entirety.
I disagree.
And that'll be, you can offer comment on that. I don't think, this application is not requiring the road to be built through. What we asked the applicant for was to provide pathways to complete the road, not make it a condition of approval for this application. I wanted it to be a condition of approval, and the applicant at that time said they didn't have a way to do that, or it wasn't feasible to make it a condition of this application. I don't feel it's appropriate to put a condition in that requires them to in any way to complete the road. If they've got 3 avenues to do there, and I think the escrow is a valid avenue, but I don't think it should be codified in this application at this point in time. Since they're not proposing building it through. They're not proposing to build it all the way through at this stage. So why are we telling them how to build it all the way through?
Because I think it's an issue that they're not building it all the way through because it's such a.
I agree, and again that's why I'd asked in the last time we met. I wanted pathways to put it through so that those findings will not go away. We could actually put in the development review findings section any commentary if we have a preference of one over the other. But I think it's enough that we have 3 pathways outlined in the findings to get that road completed. Done.
We've done this with other developments and then they just don't complete the road.
But we haven't done it to the point where we've actually had the applicant come through and in the application and in the findings and in the report identify 2 methods plus a third provided by staff of how that can be completed. We've had it before where we said we wanted it, there's a verbal or a partial agreement. It doesn't get codified. There's no documentation on how it would get there. And then it never, and I agree with you, Sharon. We've had requests in and it doesn't happen. Here we have three pathways identified in writing, in perpetuity, on how we would expect to, what we would expect to see trigger that road to be completed.
And I believe that's how it was worded in the last meeting. It wasn't that it was a condition, it was that Dusty had said, I'd like to have it codified in writing as to what the triggers would be, so it would be on the record. It wasn't, from my recollection, that it was going to be a finding, but that it would be codified somewhere in writing in the plan of what would trigger the road to be built all the way.
This way, we have
And they
three
delivered that.
Correct.
This way we have three choices, which is no choice. I mean, we have to pick one. I mean, we can say we're not going to pick this one, but then we don't have one.
I don't think it's ours to pick, though, Sharon. I think it's theirs to pick. We've identified that we want the road built. They've provided, well, them and staff have provided three methods that could trigger that road to be completed. Any application that comes in the door, the road is on the table.
Correct.
And then we can do this all over again.
Well, we've got it in writing. We've got the three triggers. Does any
I
of,
think we have to agree on it. One of what the triggers are going to be.
I don't think we should, because the best trigger is the town agreement. And we're not judging on whether or not the town is going to agree to the proposal that they're working on. Which if they work it out with the town, it's a 1 to 2 year process. We're golden. If they don't, there's a potential 10-year process, or there's an escrow process that might help trigger it. Al?
Can I just say something? I mean, it would be foolish for me to commit to doing an escrow agreement. It would be cheaper and easier for me to say, I'm just gonna build the road. And I told you the last time, I don't have the money to build the road.
Don't look at me.
I'm looking at everyone here. This is a $3+ million road that goes to nowhere right now. I don't have the money. I told you the last time that I would give you the conditions that would allow me to build the road, but I don't have those conditions. So the escrow agreement is like a non-starter for this project. We might as well roll up our plans and just say we wasted a year because you guys are telling me that I have to build this road.
Well, that's
that
why.
wasn't what the original preliminary agreement asked me to do, because it asked me to just give you the conditions that would get the road built in the future. Now, if you're looking for a guarantee, I'm out. I don't have the money to do this, and if I go and finance $3 million at 7%, anyone have a clue what that's gonna cost a month? And I know the town doesn't wanna contribute to that. It's an outrageous ask, quite frankly.
Which is why I'm advocating for us to strike condition 8 in its entirety.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
How about this? I'm sorry.
there's somebody in the audience, not in the audience, but online that's chatting. Those
Yeah.
comments aren't added to the public record. You need to speak and ask to speak.
Yeah, thank you.
for
I
everybody to hear.
saw the chats come
Yep.
through and had intended,
you.
but yes, thank you for recognizing
Thank you.
that. Yeah. I believe it was Lisa, if I remember correctly, that was sending in chats, and I just want to make sure you understand, Lisa, that those are not part of the record. We don't read the chats, so if you have something to say, we'd love for you to take a moment, unmute, maybe turn your camera on and let us know what it is that you're trying to say. Or the individual, if it wasn't Lisa, if there was an individual that was sending through chats, we would appreciate you to unmute and let us know what it is that you were saying.
While we're moving, let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in the minority, and I get your point, Al and Dusty. So as long as all those three options are in, I'm good.
We talk about this concept because I have burning questions for staff. To me, I see how everybody thinks this escrow thing is a great thing. I see it as an utter and complete nightmare to monitor and or a compliance nightmare. Who is going to hold the escrow account? Who's going to make sure deposits are going into it? Where did we come up with it? You know, four of these lots are going to pay for the full road. Like, I just see a bunch of nightmares from a compliance standpoint. You're asking for something that who's going to monitor and hold it, and then if it doesn't get done, who's going to hold the ramifications for that?
An escrow account is very simple, but I
I understand that. I work in housing.
but
We do escrow accounts all day long, and we hold that, and there are
Yes, so do I.
regulations and
But,
laws to that. So
but
I'm
I'm
wondering.
agreeing.
Hey,
I'm wondering from staff's perspective, how they envisioned this whole, it's a great concept, but I think there's a lot there that would need to be fleshed
So escrows
out.
come to us, finance actually monitors, public works.
So you would hold the account. The town would hold the account.
Town holds the account.
Okay.
I think, we were tasked with, as Dusty mentioned, potential options and realistic timelines. There's not even a timeline in this.
Oh, I know.
It's strictly financial, and there's no end in sight. And if you're talking $750,000 per lot, one of the lots is 2.5 acres, with half of it covered in wetland. The escrow account's more than the lot's worth. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's just simple.
And it was also introduced to us in the last final staff note. Not a discussion about this in any, we've been at this for over a year now, and this comes up in the 9th hour, that I've gotta come up with a $3 million+ escrow account. And I thought I made it pretty clear in preliminary that it's not gonna, it can't fly that way. I don't know why this is brought up at this hour.
No, and I think the board's being receptive to what we're saying. I mean, it's a staff report, so the condition's been put out there, and I think we've got the feedback that we've been looking for.
Kent?
Sharon, I don't know if you know more about it than I do, but this information was provided to me to put in the staff report. Catherine and Greg worked on it. They felt like it was a good idea and wanted me to put it in there. Do you know any more about it?
You know more than I know.
That's what
I mean, I think it's a great concept.
The theory.
Whether it's right, whether it's feasible or not economically, it's a great concept, and I can see why the staff would have presented it to you.
Well, we were presented by a staff report. It wasn't discussed. Yes.
So, I can see where, from the town's perspective, it would be an option to move forward. I also see where it is ripe with issues as well.
It's essentially requiring us to pay for the road, but there's no permits to construct the road.
Right.
So in order to provide an estimate, you have to design it, which we're at final, so we're not being asked to design 3,000 feet of road and go through basically the whole process we've done for 4,000 feet of road. And, in addition, there's no time frame to say when it will happen. I mean, that's really the crux of the issue. I mean, there was $75,000 put in escrow for Section H of Pinewood, with the thought that when the next phase gets built, okay, you can put that towards a new water line over there rather than the Lang Farm. The next section of Pinewood is experiencing a lot of issues. Well, what if that happens here and there's $3 million in escrow and not $75,000? I mean, it's just that all ways is a very troublesome condition.
So let's remember too, for clarity, the application is not to build the road through. The application in front of us is to build the road and stop it. What we asked for was a path to complete the road as part of future applications. They're not going to build it as part of this application. I think the applicant has been clear of that, and we accepted that guideline at the last meeting. We were in, at least at that time, the board was in agreement to move in this direction and look at see what this would work on. So we have accepted it. This is the third time?
This is the third time.
We've accepted 2 prior times that the road was not going to go through with this build out. So I'm feeling, my whole point is just not to put in a condition. I think we could have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different paths to get the road built, include them in the findings. I just don't feel we should put them in the conditions of approval for this application.
Agreed.
Yeah. I'm going to pause for a second because Lisa was able to unmute and is present. Lisa, you had some questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I keep hearing lots of different stories about this road going down to 117 eventually. And for our neighborhood, I guess I would really love to have some reassurances that whatever kind of truck traffic there is not going to be using Sand Hill Road.
I think the main reason why the DRB was asking for triggers to completion of the road was one of those reasons was to alleviate truck traffic on Sand Hill. The goal is to get to the point where the road, the continual road, Thompson and Chemo would actually connect and make that actually a better transportation avenue for the trucks. But that's not, it's not on our schedule today to talk about that completion piece. It's definitely something that we've discussed.
I think the expectation is that the traffic from this application, it can't go to Sand Hill Road. It would have to come to 117.
Right.
One of the things we talked about at our last meeting is Al made a conceded effort in the, overarching theme of making this connection. We could have started from Thompson Drive and gone down. Where does that leave you? That leaves you with a road built to a southern property line that Al owns, that then there's a solar field, right? And a separate landowner. And no development potential there really at all unless the solar panels are gone, right? So what's the prospects of the road getting built at that point?
Right.
Next to none. So we made a conceded effort to start from 117, not contribute to the existing issue that exits on Thompson, on Allen Martin, right? Everything comes in and out of 117, go up through the portion of undevelopable land. It's like 2,000 feet to get to the top of that hillside, and then eat that cost by the 5-lot subdivision, right? So it was a conceded effort to start at the bottom and work up rather than starting at the top and work down, which is going to be cheaper, quicker, and easier for us. We don't have to deal with V-Trans and turn lanes on 117. This is a much more problematic path for us that we did in good faith with the town of Essex to try and make this connection. So now to have conditions like this, put in front of us,
Are there other conditions other than the ones we've covered so far that you guys haven't concerned with?
A couple minor ones I can touch on quick if you want.
Yes, we do, but I want to make sure your question has been answered, Lisa.
Well, not entirely. I'm confused actually now. So there is no plan in the short term to go from the upper end down to Route 117. And so we're going to be adding more truck traffic.
No.
Not on Sand Hill, you're not.
How?
We are building down to the 117 right now. But not connecting to Thompson at this point. Just from the top of the hill down and having a small subdivision up on top of the hill.
It's
So those, to access those lots, you have to come up and down from 117.
And is that where the building is going to occur? That's
Yes.
correct. Parallel to
Okay.
Sand Hill. It's
Okay.
parallel to Sand Hill.
okay. Thanks.
Yep. Ken,
It's sounding to me like everybody's saying, take 8 out. Can I-
as a
can I-
condition.
As a condition.
Well,
As a condition.
They'll make that in their motion.
Right.
Right.
But leaving it at,
Feeling like everybody's saying that if I'm reading it right.
Yes.
that's, we're currently discussing removing condition 8, but
I mean,
leaving
I
all
didn't want you
three.
to think that I'm like really trying to push this.
It's
I
just,
just put, that seemed like the,
It's an option in the findings, which we were planning on leaving in at this point. The
That's what I would-
conversation has been leaving it in the findings as an option for the applicants, but not as a condition, not specifically conditioning for the escrow account.
Okay.
So,
Have some history of what was discussed and.
yep,
excellent, thank you.
yep. Okay, guys, you had some other conditions.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So
no
just-
thank you? Okay.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Number 2, just as requirements of staff, I think it's staff comments stated in finding 6, above shall be achieved prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. All of the ones that require action items are listed as conditions, most of them being public works comments. Can we just remove 2 to have the conflicting, what if it says it over here but not over there? So 2 basically references finding 6, which is all the department comments.
Yep.
The vast majority of them being public works. Those have been copied as conditions anyway. I see no need to then reference them again for sake of, which one's right.
Yeah.
That's good.
But are there, like fire, did they have some specific comments that we can just break it out that way?
But they're in the conditions.
They're already in it.
Any action items that we need to do prior to zoning permit issuance have been put in the conditions.
You're saying that's redundant,
I'm
basically.
saying it's redundant.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we can remove 2, and then jumping down to 6. Yeah, Dusty mentioned removing 5, which we're good with. 6, the solar field access road is proposed to be relocated as part of the project. The drive apron shall meet town specifications, which is all fine. It's the last sentence. The road shall be paved. So if you could flip to quickly. Sorry, my pages have been moved out. Page 4 shows the relocated drive. Maybe if you want to put it on a screen, Kat.
Yeah, I had the same question. Why?
Yeah, so we're fine paving the apron. We know it's town standard
What,
within
did
the
you
right of way.
know why that was suggested?
I don't. Well, it could be that they're worried about erosion, would be my guess.
Well, you're gonna get erosion with a gravel driveway also, right?
Well, I
mean,
think
gravel driveway's impervious the same as a paved driveway is.
right. Yeah, and obviously, I don't think the town's in the business of dictating paving or graveling driveways. This one's just temporary too for access to the road. It's like 800 feet long too. But we're actually moving it. We're moving the curb cut uphill like 300 feet, and the reason we're doing that is because the road is lower where it connects in now. So we're moving it uphill, so it's parallel to the contour, so it'll be flat rather than steep. So if erosion was the factor of that, I think we're mitigating that by essentially rebuilding it flat. So if you look, scroll down a little bit.
I was gonna say, isn't the normal standard to have like a 20-foot apron?
Yeah, it's usually in the right of way.
Right
You
there.
can see we're moving it uphill.
Down the
Right.
point, yeah.
So it's this portion over here. So this is just a temporary access road that's used to maintain the field. We're moving the curb cut up here. Reason being is we're dropping the road here a good amount.
Right.
So now it's being built parallel to the contours rather than perpendicular, which indicates steepness. So it's going to be flat, pretty flat. So if you could just strike that last sentence.
What line?
I would agree.
Line 144, the last sentence of condition 6.
It's 441.
441.
41.
Sorry, 441. Thank you.
Yeah, I had that same question. Why are we paving this freaking driveway?
And then we're good with 8 being removed. We're good with 8 being removed. Sorry.
Good catch.
And then number 18, I think, is in there twice. On sheet ST3, the drainage area for infiltration B infiltration basin number 3 includes 0.89 acres of impervious area from the Palmer axis. Because the town is not taking this roadway, the applicant shall enter an agreement for shared maintenance costs of the stormwater practice based on impervious surfaces. Kind of leads to what Dusty was saying. We're not really building it, so when it gets built and it's determined that it's going to be private, we'll enter into a stormwater shared agreement if it's necessary at the time. If it's public, then we won't need one. But as it's not part of the project, really, it's more of a placeholder. It kind of piggybacks on what Dusty was saying with condition 5. So we would ask that one be removed.
Removed or modified?
Removed, and the reason being also it's in kind of again at 19, which I think is worded better. The applicant states that 50 feet of the Palmer axis will be constructed to provide a turnaround. If the Palmer axis is constructed beyond 50 feet, a stormwater agreement shall be executed between the town and the applicant.
Yep.
So basically that's...
It's kind of...
That covers it.
Kind of
Yeah, it's in
cover
there
the same
twice. I
thing.
think that was the intention.
Yep.
It's just 18 wasn't removed. And then I'm going to jump a few pages. Number
19
30.
is actually better because it has the if
Right.
Yeah.
statement.
And then condition 34, I'm on line 542. Just the first part of it. Prior to the issuance of a zoning permit, the applicant shall install concrete monuments and lot markers to the standard specified in blah, blah, blah. If we could get that to say prior to roadway acceptance, I know I've had this conversation with the planning commission in the past. When we put in monuments for roads before they're built, they get disturbed every time. So we put them in after the road's been constructed. So as it says, prior to the issuance of a zoning permit, that would mean we'd have to put them in before the road's built. So if we could change that to prior to roadway acceptance,
How about prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy?
that's fine too.
That's what I said.
That's
He
fine
said
too.
the road-
Yeah,
That's fine too.
Either one.
Whatever you want.
I like CO.
Okay. First CO? Okay. And then number 37, 550, line 550, all utility lines shall be installed on the ground, as Hubie noted already. We just like an indication that overhead power is being installed within the new Phase 2 roadway.
And same note, yeah.
Right.
Well, not clear.
Yep.
So you, is that a?
All utility,
Well, it just says all utility lines shall be installed underground.
Okay.
We just like something added that basically says overhead power is approved along the Phase 2 roadway, or however you want to mention it. But you can indicate that the services shall be underground. That's been the precedent out here.
Well, we might, that will raise a question about whether the existing power lines would be used for telephone and cable TV, or whether they indeed would also, whether we would like to have them underground.
They typically will be used for power, and I call it primary lines, okay, versus secondary lines. The secondary lines come from the pole underground to the building.
Right.
So all the telephone and, you know, any of the communications, whether it's Comcast or Burlington Telecom, that'll travel on the poles with the primary electric lines, and then at every building, it'll go back underground from the street to the building.
So I just have a concern, because this comes from Public Works. And I
Not,
think you took it directly.
I did take it directly. Is it a requirement that they
So-
be installed underground?
So it usually is, and
Are they,
so
But they're
maybe you
there
can
above.
tweak massage the condition that, you know, somehow incorporates Public Works.
So I'm asking the question because in this is unusual in the situation that there is an existing power line
Right,
there.
it's already there.
Whereas
Right.
these other areas, when they were initially developed, there wasn't an aerial power line there, so the power is underground, like on Thompson Drive, for example. I
On
believe.
Thompson Drive, that's all
Thompson's
overhead.
It's overhead.
We continued what they did on
Okay,
Thompson.
okay,
right to
Thompson
the
Drive
end.
down to.
Red Pines overhead too.
Yeah.
could,
So storm, right?
Okay.
And it's
could
probably
we,
fine, but.
could we accommodate this just by inserting the word new after all?
all new utility lines.
Well,
Well, because they're
is
building
new
some new, they're building.
Put them up quick.
yeah.
The power company will put the new poles in, and then we pay them to do that work, and then we take it from their poles underground to the buildings. That's how we've done it, and that's how all red
Maybe,
pine.
maybe it says all utility lines shall be installed underground with the exception of overhead power on the new roadway. And state something that says all services shall be underground.
How about something like, the applicant shall work with Public Works to confirm the utility lines?
Well,
Specific-
Overhead utility lines.
But the overhead versus underground, given it's a private utility, isn't really up to them. I think it's up to you guys, whether or not you're okay with us putting overhead power.
Did this finding come from Public Works?
I think that's a boilerplate one, because it's after a bunch of priors.
Do we just need to have a finding, a stipulation that the overhead power lines will be extended from point X to point Y, or extended, I mean, are they continuing from
They'll be
Thompson Drive?
extended down the new road.
You could mention specifically, extended on the Palmer Access Road and Chemo Drive. Those are the two roads.
And then we
All
could, then,
utility lines shall be installed on the Palmer.
no.
Nope.
Overhead power lines
Yeah,
will be extended down the new access road and along Palmer.
yep, Palmer Lane and Chemo Drive.
And then this other one can be all other utility
Yep.
lines should
Yep.
be installed
Water,
underground.
sewer, storm.
All remaining
gas.
utility lines, all utility lines except for the overhead power lines.
Correct.
But we should call out the overhead power lines specifically.
You might want to clarify by saying all
Primary.
other private or building
Yeah.
power and utilities will be underground from those poles.
So maybe we add it all in one stipulation, because if we say other, it's not necessarily, there's no connection. So if we say that overhead power lines will be run down the new
They'll be
Palmer
installed
Lane,
on the Palmer
Palmer Lane and Chemo Drive,
Yep. That wouldn't include services. So.
and other utility lines shall be installed other grounds, and make that be one
Okay.
stipulation.
That's fine.
Kent?
And I would say the word primary,
Okay,
meaning
Well,
primary power lines,
The primary will be the overhead.
the overhead.
The
Right. Okay,
secondary
so-
will be to the building, so you could say either secondaries or, to the building sites will be underground.
So all primary overhead power lines shall be extended on the Palmer
From Palmer Lane and keep
Palmer
taking.
Lane
Chemo Drive.
Yep.
and Chemo Drive. And
Any-
other
any-
utility lines shall be installed on.
so hang on a second, Hubie, how would you phrase that? 'Cause you had a-
Service underground services,
To the building.
services to the individual lots.
Yeah.
You got that, Sharon?
Yep.
And that's just as a replacement for 30, rewording of 30.
Okay.
And as another note that goes along with that they've noted that there's a you have noted a couple spots.
Gentlemen?
You have noted a couple spots where poles are gonna have to be relocated. I think there are several poles that are gonna have to be relocated.
They'll stay in the same place horizontally. They'll probably have to be driven.
Yeah, there's some big cuts going on around those poles, and
Yep.
there's a lot of stuff happening there.
We know.
Yeah,
They'll be within 5 or 10 feet though.
yeah.
Were there any else? Any others?
No.
Okay. One more go around. Ken, I thought I saw your hand up. Was there something that you had a question of?
Well, yeah, I was just reviewing some old minutes, and I certainly don't think that completing Thompson Drive for this development should be a requirement. It won't add traffic to Sand Hill Road, which is already pretty heavily burdened, as you know, from some of the activity on the other part of the industrial area, the RPDI. But I just want to point out that reviewing minutes, I'm noticing that the concept of extending Thompson Drive all the way through is something that's been talked about since 2015. I see records indicating that that's an understanding, and I don't think it's a new idea. That's all I'm saying. I think it's something that's been talked about, and an understanding that it needed to be done in order to continue the development in Saxon Hill. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have one addition to condition number 10. Sheet 2, 10-foot wide municipal water easement and so on.
Yep.
To add to that, construction of the water line from Thompson Drive and through to the proposed development shall minimize tree cutting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just with the understanding it's
Right, I'm
only
just,
for a little bit.
just want to get it on the record that we're not gonna have a slash and burn through there to build the water line. And I don't expect you will, but I'm just saying that that is,
Okay.
gonna be through, primarily, well, of course, until the land swap is
Yeah.
done.
Well, it'd be
out of the town-owned land.
Yeah, it'd be a 20-foot swath basically for the easement.
Right, but you don't necessarily have to clear the whole 20-foot swath to build the water line.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
depending on exactly where it goes in that existing road that is there.
Yep. Yep.
We'll try to minimize the tree cutting, and that's pretty subjective, so.
Yep. Well, and we, the only thing I'd mention with that is we likely will make our wetland impacts as part of the future right-of-way. We are getting a wetlands permit in essence to make the full wetland impacts associated with a public road through there. So we may make those full impacts where the crossings are located. There's like 3 of them. but primarily it would just be that 20-foot spot.
Hubie, before you lose your spot there, construction of water line in the proposed development shall minimize,
Tree cutting.
thank you.
Pretty subjective, pretty, you know.
No, that's
Okay.
That's fine.
In order to, yes, Kent.
If I can, it took me a couple minutes to find the utility thing for the underground utilities. Usually that's not something I look at because public, well, I never look at that. Public looks at that, but I found the spot in the subdivision regulations where it talks about that. And it says, for utility improvements, public utility improvements, including electric and telephone cables and where accessible gas lines and television cables shall be installed in accordance with public works specifications. Then it says, for the next item, all utility lines shall be underground except where the DRB, upon recommendation of the town engineer, determines that ledge, underground water, or other conditions make underground installation economically infeasible.
I think it's still within our purview.
Yeah, it seems like it's, it says except where you would decide upon the recommendation of the town engineer.
Right.
The Public Works has reviewed our plans numerous times.
Yep. I think we took great effort to adjust that condition that would meet both our standards as well as what's correct for the applicant.
Okay.
I think, if I'm not speaking out of turn, which I don't think I am, so I think we hashed that out pretty well.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you. I will, at this point, in understanding that we still have more to do tonight as well, and given that it's 9:15, one last go around. Nick, do you have any questions, anything that's unresolved between staff and applicant on this?
No.
Stephanie?
No.
No. Hubie?
No, I'm good.
I'm
Dusty?
prepared to go in motion.
Okay. Sharon?
I'm good.
And Trevor?
I'm good.
Okay. In that case, we would close public hearing at this point. So I would take a motion from somebody to close the public hearing.
So move. Nick got it.
Nick got it?
It just sounded like I whispered to myself. But I'll second it. How about
Okay,
that?
so motion's been made to close the public hearing by Dusty, seconded by Nick. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of closing the public hearing for this application, say aye.
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 And those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Any other discussion that we would have at this point? I think we're in pretty good shape with this. I'd be willing to entertain a motion for this application specifically.
I'm willing to throw it out there, and as I go through, I'd be willing to accept commentary as we go through.
Friendly agreements?
Well, and not even have to be friendly agreements. It won't be there until we get to the end.
Friendly amendments,
Yeah.
as they say.
Friendly
So, to start with, I'll move that we accept the application for us this evening for the 132 Thompson Drive Major Subdivision Final, as written with the following modifications. I'm going to go down slowly because I tried to highlight everything I could remember catching. First one was on line 196. I would insert after Public Works and accepted by. Okay, I'm getting myself down to,
I'm sorry, Dusty, the cost estimate should be approved by Public Works and
accepted by.
the applicant, okay.
I would fully expect them to duke it out if they need to. And then I'm gonna drop down to the conditions. So is there anything in the findings that anybody would like to add in or modify on the commission before we get into the findings?
Do you want to do 7 additional findings by Development Review Board?
I think we got it covered. I
Strike
think
it.
it's all covered in here. I would say strike it for this. So in the conditions, I would strike condition 2 I would strike condition 5. On condition 6, which is line 441, I would strike the final sentence, which is the road shall be paved, because it's already calling out the apron. Line 445, condition 8, I would strike it in its entirety. Line 456, or condition 10, Hubie, I'd like you to, the wording that you would like to add into that was minimize tree cutting. I mean, do you want, how would you like that phrase?
Number 9?
I got number 10, 456.
Oh, 456, okay. Let me get
This is the one where you wanted to minimize the tree cutting. I would just like you to offer the wording. How would you like it to read?
I think I have it from when you said.
Yeah, yeah, I think she.
You've got it, Sharon?
I think I have it.
Yep,
Okay.
Yes, yep, I'm catching up here.
Continuing down, line 483, condition 18, I would strike it in its entirety. Continuing down to line 442, condition 34, I would change that to say prior to issuance of a CO.
542. Line 542.
Line 542, condition 34. Condition 37, this is where I want some creative crafting. I don't know, I think we should, I don't know how, if we want to,
I think we have that.
do you have the phrasing for that, Sharon? Do you want to read back what you've got, or an idea of
I
what
have utility lines shall be all installed underground. Overhead power lines shall be extended on the Palmer Lane and Chemo Drive and other.
Let's change the structure of that, and let's
Okay.
start that statement that overhead power lines will be extended down Chemo Drive and Palmer Lane.
I believe it was primary.
Primary power lines
Primary electric power line, yeah.
will be overhead
So it starts off the primary, like,
overhead power lines will be extended along Chemo Drive and Palmer Lane. And
other services.
other services shall be installed underground, including the connections to each lot.
Yep.
Or should we say all connections to each lot to include power? Does it matter?
It really won't, but.
So let's just leave it at the connections to each lot shall be underground. And I think that's the last thing that I had noted. Yes. So is there any other elements that people would like to modify to that before I ask for a second?
Can we read the conditions or the changes to item 10, minimizing the tree cutting, just so it's on record and clear?
Oh,
Sharon, yes.
yeah, I'm probably gonna, QB.
Well, how about
Let me go see if I can find it real quick.
intrusion in the 50-foot easement should be done in a way to minimize trees cutting? The 20-foot easement.
I think I have construction of water line and through to the proposed development shall minimize tree cutting.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I
Okay.
got.
Yeah, from Thompson Drive through to the development. Should minimize tree cutting.
To the new development
Correct.
shall minimize, okay. Is that good?
I'm comfortable with it. I mean, as Hubie said, it's a subjective.
Yeah.
It's a subjective statement. It's
I
not
think you asked for it to be read. Does that work for you?
That's fine with me.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure I had it right.
It's a little tough. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts and there are a lot of conditions in this. Anything else that anyone?
Sharon or Trevor, do you have anything else that you want to?
No.
No.
Okay, then I'll offer it up for a second.
Second.
Okay, well, okay, I mean, we're gonna have discussion anyway.
Unless you have something else you want to change.
Well, I just want to clarify that what we're doing for the, we're saying there are 3 options, in essence, for the through road construction.
Triggers.
There are
might,
three
three
triggers
options that may trigger the road construction.
Right, and we're not committing to any one of them, but there are, and I'm thinking that, as a comment, that, the town select board is gonna be the ultimate decider here on this deal, and that probably in this deal, there might be something that includes completion of that road.
So the way that works is all the deeds are done beforehand. Do we have that in there, all legal deed documents, deeds? If we don't have the condition of the templated condition that all legal documents shall be reviewed by the town attorney, prior to usually the issuance of the zoning permit. Is it in there? I don't know.
32.
Number what?
32.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we have a motion that's been made, and I can't recall if we had a second. Did we have? Yes, we had a
Yes,
second.
Yes,
Stephanie
Stephanie,
seconded.
yeah.
And
So now we're at the point of
now we're
potentially
at
in
the point of
amendments.
Discussion and amendments.
And, yeah, because with what your question is, Sharon, I had the same thing. I'm assuming that number 32, that does cover water sewer agreements as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Yeah, all legal documents. But I'm still a little, when you're saying 3 options
That's in findings.
It was in the findings.
of findings, okay.
We weren't trying to edit those,
Okay,
just leave them in.
okay, very good.
Any other discussion? Seeing no hands online and hearing none here at the tables, I'll ask for all those in favor of this motion as it's been amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for working this long, this hard on this.
Yep.
And I will just say, you guys could be some of our biggest advocates. We really do want to get this land deal with the town done, which will put that road on the fast track. And I heard everyone in the room wants this road.
Yep.
We're telling you from our perspective, we want it as well, but let's get this land thing.
Yep.
That pushes it.
can you say how much land the town is gonna give up?
It's not give up,
Well, I mean swap.
it's swap.
Right.
What is it, somewhere around
I'll say we were
70?
70, 80 acres, but
70,
it was a first pass at it. I guarantee you it's gonna change.
Almost the size
But
of
you
the
were
village
also,
parcel.
part of that was looking to give more acreage to the town.
No, it was a
Oh,
land
in
swap.
Eden swap, okay.
Yeah. And that keeps that 60/40.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we're in front of the planning commission as part of this, for those of you who pull double duty, so. You'll probably see it again.
So
Be there.
We'll look forward to
before
it.
the planning commission or the DRB?
Well,
the
the
swap
swap
would
I
be
can
with
see
the
going
swap.
back to planning
Yeah.
commission
Yeah.
for recommendation.
Before it goes to the select.
Yeah.
I don't know, that'll be up to town. Meeting.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Congratulations. Looking forward to the build.
I
Okay.
remember going up there with
Consent agenda.
build a house up
We
there.
got the consent
The
item.
consent agenda. That's right.
Consent item.
So we are now still actually in session. So thank you. You guys are fine, but we're now on to the consent items, which had been moved down on our agenda. So I will start with, does anyone here?
I would offer a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. We had
As-
discussion ahead of time.
Okay, so, and I did make a couple changes, right?
Correct.
Okay,
You'll be asked to
perfect.
say,
I've
change
lost-
that to be an
I've
if.
lost my copies.
Yeah.
It's in here somewhere.
Yep. And we've all looked at the corrected and the updated version.
Okay, excellent. So, did you just make a motion?
I made a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Would make one other comment that on the plot plan itself,
On
for the land
finding
swap,
3?
the title box that's gonna be signed by the chair, it says approved by the planning commission. Oh.
Oh, you're gonna see those for a while.
I'll second.
So we'll know.
You see that? You see
Oh,
that?
yeah. I won't be the first one.
No, I'm sure not. So we have a motion that's been made. We have it and seconded as well. Any other discussion about the consent item? Now I want to make sure that Trevor and Sharon, you have an opportunity as well.
No,
We're good.
You good? Okay. Nick?
No.
Set?
Yep.
You said yours. We're all set. All those in favor of the consent item, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
So
Right.
I'm gonna run up real quick and print out a new copy so I can get your signature.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
After I,
Item 7, which remains 7, is approval of the meeting minutes.
and did I put something before you on that too? Yes. So before, on the February 6th,
January 16th? Or the
no,
February?
February 6th minutes.
Yep, February 6 minutes, yep.
I did made some changes to line 110, and I'll just read it since Sharon Zukowski brought them to my attention. Sharon Zukowski stated that the new proposal still impacts the 20% slopes. She also pointed out that the 21% is the tipping point for erosion in the area. Not only has steep slopes over 20%, it also has very silty, loamy soil, which is prone to erosion. And that was on page 3. And then I made some changes on page 4, line 155. Board member Norton referred to line 699 and noted that it suggests that there could be other measures that are acceptable. So I just changed that line a little bit.
Which one was that?
Line 155,
Okay.
page 4. So I just,
Yep.
on the first line, after the last word there could be other. And then I deleted will be measure, so.
Okay.
And again, thank you, Sharon, for catching that.
I will note that on line 122, board member Norton asked what the basis was to arrive at 20% slope, the maximum as he finds instead of G.
Is he
Instead of
okay? Very
Jefe?
good.
Yep. Anyone else have any, Nick, did you have any?
Yeah, I had a couple
Stephanie?
more.
No, I do
No?
not.
Yeah.
You be
Line
what-
102,
Yep.
it says, Board Member Bruce would like the new proposal layout and suggested it should be continuing, not continued, but continuing the application to allow staff to revise the preliminary report to and change how to reflect. So we'd say
Yeah,
preliminary report to reflect the suggested changes.
thank you. I
think there's
appreciate
new-
you guys reading these.
Yeah.
I think there's new regs out there about de minimis errors too.
Yeah.
Ideally, they would all be communicated to Sharon.
Yeah,
before
and I
meetings.
agree, and I'll try to do that when I see those kinds of things. I'll let you know ahead of time.
Perfect,
You know,
thank you.
that's
Yep.
you know, I agree. In, this is old. Bob Call. You
Yep, oh, yeah.
Oh God. He would start correcting grammar. You know.
So February 6th, we're all set with? Were there any questions or adjustments on the January 16th? And we're in pretty good shape with that.
Okay, so you're gonna motion it?
Oh, I got some changes there.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah.
I would have been shocked if you didn't, Hubie.
Well, it was changes that we talked about last time. Line 108.
Oh, it's past my bedtime.
Gary Member Williams asked if where it says curbs were, should be changed to roadway was super elevated.
If the roadway.
Was super elevated.
Was super elevated, right.
Got it.
Has to do with, means banking on a curve, okay? That's that. And also it says, Brian Kerr replied that instead of curbs, it should say roadway. and then change elevated to normal crown.
Would be, so Brian Courier replied that the roadway would be
A normal crown?
a
That the
norm.
roadway would be normal crown, and he felt, etc.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't, not to nitpick, but wouldn't have a normal crown.
What, yeah, okay, yep.
Would not have a
Would
norm.
would have. a
Would
normal
have.
crown.
Would
Would
have.
have a
a
normal.
normal crown, yep.
Okay.
Line 202. Johnson stated that there are 3, and should insert the word typical cross sections. And then on line 203, strike the word cross and write 4. So it would read, Johnson stated that there are 3 typical cross sections for the road.
Thank you.
Line 204, at the very end, says, is in a resource, and then also insert preservation district. Actually, that should be resource preservation I district, correct?
Yeah, I'll write it out,
Yeah.
resource preservation district dash industrial.
Yeah, and aren't there just 2 road cross sections? What the? Wasn't it just
Yeah,
two?
typical cross sections are different than final cross sections.
Right, but weren't there 2? Weren't there 2, not 3?
There were only, it seems I think you're right, I think there are only 2. There's
They had the upper and the lower cross sections.
yeah,
Do you want to just say cross sections?
Cross-
There
cross
are
sections.
typical cross sections?
there
Yeah,
are.
thank you. Thank you. The
that
voice
there
of
are
reason.
typical cross sections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just remove the word.
For the road,
We won't get
okay.
committed.
No, we still might get committed.
Oh, yeah. I'm feeling pretty committed at this point.
And then 312, the one that Nick talked about last time.
You could have left that part out.
Levine changes to Bixby. Or do we have a Levine? Is there somebody incognito here named Levine?
No. Okay.
I make a motion to approve minutes from January 16th and
February 6th.
February 6th, as discussed and amended in this meeting.
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Sharon or Trevor?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. All those in favor of the minutes of the meeting being approved as updated here, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Excellent. What's left? I'm gonna find my agenda now. Is that it?
That's it? Other business, or?
Is there any other business?
Not that I'm aware of. Anything that you're aware of?
No.
No?
If we had anything, it's gone out of our head.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly.
aware of anything right now.
And acknowledge the reading file. And,
Oh, right.
yeah,
I didn't see that in my packet.
which I think we discussed at
During,
length during the application process, if I'm not mistaken.
You know, it might be good with Sharon's approval to forward this to the planning commission for review and discussion within their buffer, as part of their buffer discussion. If Sharon, if you'd agree to that.
Yeah, sure.
That would be great.
It was pretty specific to this, just because.
Understood, but it would give some context for,
It's always good to have an
That discussion.
example
Right.
yeah.
when you have a discussion.
Sure.
Okay.
okay, I apologize, my packet did not have that letter, so.
It's in the online.
Yeah, it is.
I have a suggestion that about scheduling something. Do you think we should have something on one of our agendas about discussing how we're all doing and anything we'd like to change, like the way we communicate or anything like that? Since we're new.
typically you could have that discussion at the change of, is it July 1st?
July 1 is the start of the fiscal year, so we have to
You
do,
review your operating procedures and,
Perfect.
yeah, okay.
So it's sort of already on the books. Unless,
I mean, it'll be a good touch point, because it'll be,
I have no complaints. I'm just,
no, but it's a really good observation.
I was going like,
Wow.
I hate it here.
the chair recognizes that, that's excellent news. Thank you.
I mean, did she just say no complaints?
She said there's no complaints, yeah. Yeah. That,
The door's open.
that she's willing to bring up at this point.
Time of my life.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I believe we've gone over everything in the agenda. I would be happy to take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Nick has made the motion. Stephanie has seconded. Any other discussion?
Not debatable.
No?
Not debatable.
Non-debatable, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion to adjourn has carried 7-0. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm gonna run up real quick and